What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Rewind Room. We are so happy that you are joining us once again for a look back in time and going back and looking at a lot of things that kind of shaped who we are as people, and as well as just the fun memories of being young and innocent. So my name is John. I am one of your hosts, and with me is my wonderful, amazing co-host, Ramona Mejia. How you doing, my friend?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing awesome. Oh, man. I'm so excited for this super special episode. You know how excited I am, my friend.
Today, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest monsters, dinosaurs, whatever you want to call him, that has ever existed. Probably the king of the kaiju lore himself. It is none other than Godzilla.
The G-Man himself.
Yep.
Oh, man. This is going to be an exciting episode because we are doing sort of a deep dive on, I think, in my opinion, the king of the monsters.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Technically, even though King Kong came before this guy, Godzilla took it to a whole new level.
Oh, man. He
I mean,
took it and turned it on its head.
absolutely. So, the one thing I'll say about and I'm sure you'd agree with this. I think one thing that made our friendship strong again after reuniting is the fact that we both love Godzilla and Kaiju.
Oh man, and
And
it came out at a perfect time too, because when we reconnected is when the Monsterverse took over, It's when it
yeah, 100%.
blew up.
Yeah, no, for absolutely. I mean, it was interesting because when I was young, I had only seen a few Godzilla films. I'd only seen the um the version with Matthew Broderick. I can't remember the year that one came out. I'm sure you probably know the year on
98.
that. 98,
Yeah.
the 98. I've seen the 98 Godzilla. I had also seen Godzilla versus Kong at the
Oh yeah.
time.
Okay.
I'm not the MonsterVerse version, but the
Okay.
the older version of Godzilla
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
Kong, which I thought was great
Yeah.
film. And then of course I did after that go back and I watched the original Godzilla, and I've seen since then I have seen, of course, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. I've seen Godzilla versus Mothra. I've seen a lot of the more popular releases, but I'm
Yeah.
still working my way through the lore because there are so many
Oh
Godzilla
man.
movies out there
Over
that
29, that's for sure.
way over 29, because
Yeah.
now we're counting everything that's coming out now, and
Mm-hmm.
Toho's taking their game to a whole new level.
Oh
So
yeah.
please bear with me, folks, as I do this episode. But other than that, we're just here to have a good old time and to have a cool conversation about Godzilla.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you don't mind me starting off, I'd like to talk a little bit about the origin of the G-Man
Please.
himself. Well, it was definitely in the makings for greatness when he was created, and something that at the time people did not realize how much it would span into culture almost 100 years later
Oh yeah.
as well. A little under, yeah, about 80 years later, 70 to 80 years later, and it's pretty crazy. How it's evolved since then. But the origin of Godzilla, so he was created by Ishirō Honda in 1954,
Mhm.
and it was actually inspired by an American film. Believe it or not, it was inspired by the 1953 The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Oh wow.
And that film included a prehistoric dinosaur named Rhedosaurus, and basically he was awakened by an atom bomb. And if you are a fan of Godzilla, you know that that was literally the plot line for the original 1954 film. Substitute the atom bomb with the hydrogen bomb, and Godzilla, also known as Gojira in Japan, is considered a post-war contextual film filled with a bunch of allegories. So it is a film, a responsive and reflexive film that was created to reflect the reality that Japan had just really realized, because post-war 1954, you're ending World War II, you're ending this whole introduction to nuclear warfare, and then less than a decade later, you're seeing the ramifications of said nuclear warfare,
Mhm.
and then that is actually what inspired the creation of Godzilla. Just to be a little bit more specific, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and then none other than the real life Lucky Dragon number 5 fallout incident. And
Mhm.
for those of you who don't know, it was basically a fishing vessel that had over, I think, 20 fishermen on it. And believe it or not, it was 86 miles from the fallout zone.
Mhm.
And they had awful radioactive ash fall on them through the fallout cloud because of US hydrogen bomb testing at Bikini Atoll.
Mhm.
And it even being a little less than 100 miles away affected them so gravely, it scared and shook Japan. And
Sure.
basically, the people of Japan were like, hey, like, if that can affect fishermen, it's going to affect our entire country. We're breathing this stuff in. We
Mhm.
are literally being negatively affected. These are the ramifications of war, of greed, of X, Y, and Z, and
Mhm.
Godzilla was created as a metaphor for the nuclear devastation that happened in World War II. His radioactive breath,
Mhm.
his burned complexion, almost like a burned ashy skin, and unstoppable force are basically a testament to the trauma of the era, and the uncertainty that Japan faced as a country when it came to regrowing and rising up from the literal ashes of post-war um, devastation. And the original film, if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And I'm sure Jonathan also recommends it as well. It's
Absolutely.
super emotional, super, super emotional. And I'm sure you felt that as well, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Us being, born 50 years later and then in a different country as well, the fact that our hearts also, mourned the sentiment of what Honda tried to bring to life
Mhm.
through this film, it was mournful and it was political, and it was something that Japan was still living through and
Mhm.
continues to live through to this day.
Yeah.
The original film used a kaiju, a giant monster, as a symbolic representation of a country's coping with said devastation. And a lot of people think of Godzilla as this huge monster that just, goes on and rampages a city. And then you have city folk saying, like, oh, Gojira, Godzilla, blah, blah, blah. It's more than that. It's about the people, it's about the monster itself, it's about the innocence, it's about so much more than one could even grasp by just scraping the top of the lore,
Mhm.
and I'm going on, but that's basically the origin of, in my opinion, like I said, the king of the monsters, the one who still
Mhm.
reigns true to this day in 2025.
100%. No, you laid that out absolutely beautifully, and I'd have to agree with you. Godzilla OG from 54 is an absolutely beautiful film. Like you said, yeah, no, very emotional. It's one of those films when I went into it, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into because I always knew
Hmm.
Godzilla as like this big monster that goes around crushing things and doing all this stuff, and the people around it are trying to defend themselves against it and whatnot and such. But the thing that you're gonna find if you watch the OG Godzilla is it's much more serious in tone. It's I would even say it borderlines into horror at
Oh,
times.
100%,
And
100%.
and there's moments in that film that are genuinely disturbing and horrifying.
Yeah.
And and it's meant to evoke a I feel like that movie's meant to evoke a emotional response, and then I feel like after that that's when they decided, okay, we're just gonna have fun now.
Absolutely. And it boils down to a couple of things that we're going to talk about later
Mhm.
about what makes a kaiju film. But speaking specifically about the 1954 Godzilla film, every detail that Honda put in the film
Mhm.
was representative of something in their reality. Like, even looking at Godzilla is terrifying. Why? Because it was supposed to mimic someone or something that was burned badly through bomb testing, and that is something that people of that generation knew a little bit too much of,
Mhm.
and us being so detached from it, I can't even imagine that. And I feel like, especially coming from America, because we are both Americans,
Mhm.
we don't even do justice to the original intention of Godzilla, but we do represent it in a way that also pays homage, but also Americanizes it in a way to where we can understand it the way that
Hmm.
we need to.
Yeah.
But seeing where it comes from, if anything, is empowering because of how long it's lasted and how it sort of interjected itself into different cultures. Like we as Americans, like a lot of us, children, adults, we grew up on this monster
Yeah.
that was created thousands of miles away from us, and it's so empowering to think
Hmm.
that an idea like that a shared trauma can boil down into just a human experience, and that can be shared throughout different countries, throughout different languages, throughout different cultures.
Absolutely. And one thing I also want to bring up too, just really quick while we're on this topic, is something that I feel like a lot of people don't always think about when they look at Godzilla's per se. And I thought I'd bring this up before we move on, but it's interesting because Godzilla, you have to figure, is actually one of the few films that actually showed Japan's point of view of what happened after a situation like this. Now, it wasn't a film that, like, it's not a movie like Letters from Iwo Jima, which shows Japan's side during
Mm,
World War II or anything like that. It's
yeah.
not even a movie that shows the fallout or the aftermath of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But
Hmm.
what Honda did, when this is so genius, is he took the idea of trauma and of everything Japan had been through with that time, and basically put it in a way to make the rest of the world understand what they had just went through.
Absolutely.
And because I mean, okay, take a movie, and I'm gonna go off track a bit here. Take a movie like Oppenheimer, Christopher
Okay.
Nolan's film
Yeah.
from
Absolutely.
2023, and you look at how that movie shows the making of the atomic bomb and all this other stuff, and you get to see kind of how Oppenheimer kind of feels about it, and you see all the people around him are almost like, oh, it's just for a good cause, it's just for a better thing, and it's just for all this and this and this, and like I don't want to really, I don't want to get political on this point, obviously, because that's a conversation I feel like for another day. But I will say this: it's interesting to see because really, when you look at how America perceives that versus how Japan perceived it, it's a whole different side of things. And I think really what Godzilla did is it really allowed the rest of the world to empathize with what actually happened around them, and even I think kind of allowed the US to kind of even realize that, like, yes, we did this, yes, we, it happened, whatnot, but at the same time it's kind of like, we probably have mixed feelings about it as well. And the reason I bring Oppenheimer up is because that's exactly how Mr. Oppenheimer himself felt after
Mm,
creating said bomb, which in a sense was the inspiration for Godzilla. So I guess in a sense you can say Oppenheimer created Godzilla, if you want to put
yeah,
it that way.
for
But the
sure.
reason I bring that example up is because I feel like a lot of people don't always consider other point of view. I think it's so
Mm,
easy to get caught up in your own day-to-day life, and living in a country like the USA, which I'm proud to live in, at the same time is not perfect, and we have done things that aren't great either. And I mean, many films show great examples of that, but I think really Godzilla was the first one to actually kind of point out, and it kind of almost feels like they're saying, you created this, you
yeah.
did this, and at the end of the day, I don't want to say necessarily irresponsible, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you gave us this demon that we now have to deal with, and now the world gets to see this film. And then when you see Godzilla, you start to realize, that it's a representation of something bigger. So
Yeah.
that's
And
that's the main thing I want to say.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because a lot of us as Americans, even back in the 1950s, didn't even the film existed, but to access it in the United States was nearly impossible until a couple of years later when Americans remade Godzilla 1954. And by remade, I mean edited it.
Yes.
Very much so. You take the original Gojira, you add an American protagonist, you add American themes, and you take away the gravity of World War II, of the bomb in World War
Yeah.
II, and that's the Godzilla King of the Monsters that was introduced to America. So for years after the original Gojira came out, the
Uh-huh.
original Godzilla, we were still in a sense blind to the atrocities of what happened with the atomic bomb because of censorship through our own government. You know,
Yeah.
there were many themes and characters in the film taken out for American sensitivity. And that's actually pretty crazy to think about in a day
Mm.
and age 2025. Like, think of a movie that just recently came out and then think of it coming out, you know, to cater to a certain culture, to cater to a certain type of person by being completely censored, you know, that
Yeah.
completely takes away from the original intent of the creator. And I'm sure Ishiro Honda, you know,
Mm.
expected that from the Americans at the time. You know,
Oh
he
yeah.
expected that.
Yeah, no, I really think that that you make a good point. And the thing is, you have to figure too is it was only so many years later, I think, that Americans finally got to experience Godzilla the way it was intended to,
Mm-hmm.
the original
Yes.
version. And now I will honestly say, if I was to tell you to watch a version of that film, I would say go with the OG Japanese 1954 version and watch it with subtitles. It's a much more meaningful film. I've seen both. And I can definitely say the Americanized version was definitely watered down a lot.
Yeah.
They definitely, you can tell they were trying to cater to an audience, and that's where you can see they were really trying to make Godzilla more of an action character, or more
Mm-hmm.
of like a monster, kind of like destruction, trying to cash in on their own trend of the
Yeah.
big monsters of the 1950s. And Godzilla, regardless of where it's from, has to fit that bill somewhere, but they were trying to make it fit too much to what they wanted instead of just trying to integrate it into what was already there. I think it would have been much more powerful had you had done that. But
It's
again, you
hard
have to.
though, you know. It's hard because it's like a sense of denial. Do you know what I mean? That
No,
that as the
absolutely.
government themselves they had, and they didn't want to subject their the American people to that.
Well, that too, but also you have to figure at the time too. There were a lot of mixed feelings on what had happened at that time. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it too was we had just been victorious in World War II, and now we're in the middle of the Cold War. And
Yeah.
so, and I'm not trying to defend the government or anything. I guess what I'm trying to say, in a sense, is um, I think with all of that, they got a little bit, invested more in their own kind of goals, and henceforth now they're even integrating it into the pop culture in a sense, and now you look at that as a whole. And I think the one thing that is always missing from that is a sense of authenticity, which I felt the OG
Yep.
Godzilla had. And I think at the time too, so many people were thinking of this thing as a great victory and were completely denying all the innocent people that were a byproduct of this attack. And I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people forget when it comes to nuclear war in general. And that is why there's so many campaigns, so many movies, so many anti-nuclear war things, is because it is so destructive to the point that nobody wins.
No,
Even the people
absolutely.
who launch lose.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody
And
wins.
Godzilla throughout the years, whether you're looking at specific eras, always boils down to this idea that we can't control nature,
Mhm.
but we can harm it. And
Mhm.
in doing so, in harming nature through an atomic bomb or a
Mhm.
hydrogen bomb, according to the plot, you are destroying nature. And Godzilla is a form of nature himself.
Yep.
And he is the representation of the earth that we are, in a way, you know, indirectly harming by harming others through warfare.
Exactly. And coming back to your point real quick, yeah, you can't change nature. But the thing I think people also forget is but one thing we can control is our own actions.
Yep, exactly.
And our actions have a lot to do with how nature does play out, in a sense. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously there are certain things in life and in nature you cannot control, but
Yeah.
and things just kind of happen, but how you respond to it, and how you treat those around you, you absolutely have control over that, and that's going to influence how nature and society evolve. I think it's definitely that's a great point that you brought up, my friend, about all that. And it's so cool to see that how deeper Kaiju goes than a lot of other monster type of stories. I mean, yeah, you could say the same about King Kong, but really at the end of the day, let's be honest, King Kong was more of adventure's sake for adventure's sake at the end of the
Yeah,
day. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it has some important messages about society and whatnot, but nothing to the level that Godzilla did. Japan was already so many light years ahead. They weren't
yeah.
just making entertainment, they were sending a message to the world.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are not really familiar with Godzilla lore, it's really the only, when it comes to the 1950s and pretty much the 20th century, the two most serious films have to be the first two, which released
Mhm.
in 1954 and 55, 56, which is Godzilla, what we have been talking about,
Yep.
and then also Godzilla Raids Again. And then
Godzilla
after,
Raids Again's incredible too.
oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the that's another one I have seen. Yep.
So actually, what's significant about that film that a lot of people overlook is it's pretty much the first film within the series that brought on this idea that monsters can fight other monsters,
Yep.
and it brought along. At the time, he was Godzilla's foe, but then he ends up becoming one of his greatest allies, arguably his greatest ally, Anguirus. Um,
Anguirus,
I
yes.
think he's an ankylosaurus or something like that.
Yep.
And those two films, being the first two, are actually the most serious in tone, and they actually happen to be the only two black and white films within the series.
Hmm.
After that, there's a huge shift in the way that people write Godzilla and see Godzilla. And we're actually going to talk about
Hmm.
that right now, because for those of you who don't know, Godzilla is sort of. Um, he's an evolved being, not
Hmm.
only as a monster but as a film icon,
Hmm.
because every director has
Hmm.
painted Godzilla in a certain light, and depending on how he has been portrayed throughout the years, it's divided into different eras, and the eras are what a lot of people overlook, and that's what at times is so daunting when it comes to kaiju lore. And by the way, kaiju means giant monster.
Yep.
In the case that we continue saying that and you don't know what that
Yes.
means, guys, we don't want to overlook you guys.
For
But
sure.
basically, the symbolism behind each film varies, and every era is so different in significance, in scope, in plot, and even in the Godzilla form himself. Believe it or not, there are more than one Godzillas,
Oh
and a
yeah.
lot of people don't know that. Now, I actually want to ask you before I get on my little
Yeah.
soapbox, what do you know about the eras when it comes to Godzilla?
So I basically know very little about that. If I'm being honest, I am aware of the different eras and kind of like the basic films that are in those eras and what each era kind of represents. But aside from that, I don't know a whole lot, and the main reason is because the most I've looked into was just the films. But now that I am starting to get into the eras, I see how they're just as important as the films themselves.
Yeah, and they differ on the tone as well too.
Yeah.
So I can see why certain people have certain um emotional affiliations with others
Mhm.
versus, some of either the newer ones or the older ones. Like, say
Yep.
you have kids who are growing up currently in the legendary Godzilla monsterverse, which is what is currently, in theaters, the things that
Mhm.
have been coming out since like 2014. But believe it or not, there are different eras that have defined points of culture, not only for Japan but the United States as well.
Sure.
The most notable, and in my humble opinion, my favorite and the best in my humble
Mhm.
opinion, is the Showa era.
Oh yeah.
And that is actually, I would say, one of the most well-known eras. And Showa era Godzilla
Mhm.
consists of the films Godzilla from 1954, i.e., the Advent, all the way to 1975. So every Godzilla film made in that time period is considered Showa era.
Yep.
And some of the defining factors and themes that make a kaiju film a Showa era film, besides it being made in that time period, um, are symbols of nuclear doom because it was
Yep.
so close to World War II. And then many allegories and motifs of man's obsession with power. And, the first two films, as John perfectly stated, can be seen as horror films. But
Mhm.
then right after that second film arc, it literally is
The
brought
tone changes.
the tone changes and color is literally brought into life, into the color brings life into the film literally, and we get
Mhm.
to see the beautiful colors of the Japanese landscapes and things like that. And the tone becomes more playful and lighthearted. And Godzilla, prior to that, was represented as this monster that was he was a reflection of everything bad in humanity.
Mhm.
And after those two films, he was sort of seen as a fatherly protector of nature and humanity. And that's a huge shift. And that can be confusing when it comes to talking about the eras, but this is all still one era. And then it becomes more lighthearted, and you see Godzilla battling other monsters and aliens and threats
Mhm.
beyond human intervention. And this era established most of the pop culture icons that we currently know today, and created the monsters that we are still currently seeing in kaiju movies as well.
Mhm.
The allegories, in my opinion, are the strongest in this era
Mhm.
because it's so fresh. The wound of war is so fresh that you even see it 25 years later, up until 1975.
Yep.
And that concludes the Showa era, which I'm assuming that you are actually probably most familiar with.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, the Showa era for sure I'm familiar with. I guess the other way you can kind of put the Showa era is you could, I guess, unofficially call it the OG era as
the
well,
OG era,
because
for
that's
sure.
where all the kind of concept and original and pretty much the majority of Godzilla movies you're gonna hear about, more popular, are gonna come from the Showa era.
100%. And something that is super cool about the Showa era is its ingenuity and its creativity.
Mm.
For a lot of you who have not seen those movies, think of a man in a suit
Yep.
and small miniature towns and cities created by building blocks and wood and carpentry and glue.
Mm.
And then think of that man in the suit stomping on it, you know,
Mm.
and it's so cheesy, but it's so good and it's so
Mm.
of the time. That is very Showa era specific.
Mm.
And every era has a different design. Every era has a different Godzilla, intention, plot, everything. And
Mm.
what came after Showa, there was a maybe a 10-year break, believe it or not, where people weren't seeing any Godzilla content until the Heisei era
Mm.
from 84 to about 95.
This
And
is the
that,
era I have the least experience with.
well,
So actually,
it makes sense because there aren't that many films in it, but also two, there's sort of reinterpretations of Showa era films, but turned on its back. So what creates a Heisei era film? Uh, Godzilla returning, but more literally darker,
mm,
and also in tone. Very serious characterization. He's portrayed as this powerful force of nature rather than a superhero.
mm,
So it's sort of going back to the first two original films, and it follows a more connected continuity, whereas the Showa era films could be standalone films.
mhm,
And the Heisei era makes it feel like one streamlined plot
mhm,
throughout the movies. And in the Heisei era, he's destructive, but he's also majestic and beautiful. He's a creature shaped by
mm,
humanity's mistakes, but also guided by human morals. You even see Godzilla cry in some deleted scenes
mhm,
from this era's movies because he actually shows bits of compassion. The allegories do continue, but the focus shifts
mhm,
where it's sort of unbalanced. The plot of the humans sort of takes a sideline, and you see more action and fighting.
mhm,
So I didn't mention this in the Showa era films, but in the Showa era films, believe it or not, you get maybe 10 minutes of good kaiju fighting. The rest of it is just human plot. And a
mhm.
lot of people don't like that, especially Americans. A lot of
Yeah.
Americans or Westerners don't really care for the Showa era because it's mostly human interaction and
Mhm,
and human plots. And people are like, "Well, there's not a lot of fighting. There's this, but that's the point." But with the shift for the Heisei era, you're starting to see more explosions. You're starting to see more mindless fighting,
mhm,
more cool monsters, cool effects. You're still in the suitmation, but you're starting to delve into CGI
Mhm.
and less practical effects. And that is already a shift. Not only is your production changing, but the focus of the film
Mhm.
itself. You go from these movies that are in a way heartbreaking to full-blown explosions. It's basically like going from I don't know, like a Guillermo del Toro to Michael Bay. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And a lot of people actually, believe it or not, don't really have too much experience with the Heisei era because they're actually really hard to find.
They are. I mean, there's a lot of gatekeeping around the Heisei era
Mm-hmm.
as well, just like how Hammer gatekeeps a lot of their films in Region 2, when yet those are some of the
Yeah.
most popular films ever. And trust me, if they announced a box set being released, I'd be first in line to buy one. I wouldn't care about the price even. But
Yeah.
no, it's crazy to see how or the Heisei era really doesn't get the love that I feel like it deserves, and I feel like the
No.
thing is that it was interesting what you're mentioning about the Showa era and how there's lots of people who don't like it because it's very human based. I think that's actually one of the qualities that makes those films stronger, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think now it's a little bit more accepted, especially now that you have people who are kind of like, when they go back and look at the film, they're moved by it, and then the next thing, then they realize what the Godzilla series was shooting for.
Oh yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
really the thing with Americans wanting the more fighting stuff, I feel like aside from maybe some people in like certain parts of the country, I think a lot of that was just predisposition by what American studios thought was going to sell tickets.
Oh,
Because
yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
and the reason I say that is because really the one thing I will say about the American film system, despite having made some of the greatest movies ever made, it is very flawed. And one of the biggest flaws in it is studios often put money over art. Whereas you can see that countries, especially Japan, put art over money. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, finances are important no matter what when you make a movie. But when you look at them at American, what they do, they're kind of the main thing they're thinking is how many tickets can we sell.
Yeah,
Whereas I feel like,
absolutely.
especially you have somebody like Honda, who is probably not even really thinking of that. He's thinking, how am I going to tell a story about what our country has been through, and how am I going to get the world to listen?
Absolutely. The intentions definitely differed. And it rightfully so, because I mean, as Americans, we've been put in this light to where we're sort of selfish. And
Unfortunately, yeah.
in many ways, it has come true, especially when it comes to our media. And a true testament of it was America's own interpretation of Godzilla, which came out right after the Heisei era ended.
Yep.
So remember, the Heisei era ended around 95. Couple of years worth of a hiatus for Godzilla content up until 1998, which is the Matthew
Oh
Broderick
boy.
Godzilla, or Zilla,
Yep.
known to us Americans, basically follows. We're not really going to talk too much about it, but it's basically America's interpretation of Godzilla, but in New York City rather than in Tokyo or
Yep.
a random town in
Hmm.
Japan. And funny enough, it had such a cultural impact that immediately out of their hiatus, Toho, which is the Japanese production company that Godzilla originated through,
Hmm.
had a response film
Oh yeah.
for it because of how embarrassing the American version was. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that version because of nostalgia for myself,
Fair.
but it is an embarrassment when it comes to it. So much so that it's not really even considered canon in many people's eyes.
No.
Um, and after that 1998, so just to reiterate, we have
Mhm.
the Showa era, we
Mhm.
have the Heisei era, we have that standalone American garbage,
Yep.
and then we have Japan's sort of media retaliation to said film. And that's what's considered the Millennium Era. And the
Mhm.
Millennium Era spans from 1999 to 2004. And that's where you see a whole new Godzilla. It's literally all just action.
Pretty
Very
much.
little allegory, but most action and CGI.
Yep.
So it definitely, ironically, appealed more to Americans uh, post Heisei and Showa era
Yep.
because they ended up including more of the things that appealed to Americans. So I
Mhm.
don't really know if that was the intention of Japan, but they ended up doing that because he became this destructive menace and distant protector. He was still a protector, but he was a
Mhm.
freaking menace. And I think that's what Americans wanted to see. So ironically, Japan created it as a response to their horrible interpretation of what was the G-Man.
No, yeah, for sure. I think you look at how America's treating, Godzilla, and very much so they're just kind of trying to go with the action. They're just trying to go with like and even the 98 film, it almost felt like they were trying to do too much of a sci-fi take on it,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
and they were trying to like explain how this creature can come to life and all this stuff and all this other stuff that doesn't even add up to what was
It
in the
can
OG.
reproduce with itself and it has a bunch of
Yes.
babies and yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not even gonna ask questions about that, but
um
yeah, no, it's wild just to see how far the lore actually goes, really.
Yeah, and that's actually where Suitmation stops. So that playful, creative ingenuity that you saw in the Showa era and the Heisei era no longer exists because we're fully dependent on CGI. And sure, you have animatronics and whatnot, but it just doesn't hold a candle to a man in a suit going roar. It
Mhm.
takes away from that whimsical, intention of the later Showa era films.
Yeah.
And like I said, it turns it on its head and just makes it a complete American commotion, even though it's still Japanese. And that, like I said, lasted up until 2004. And believe it or not, it would be 12 years until Toho responds again with a new era. And that era is called the Reiwa era. And we are currently living in the Reiwa era.
Mhm.
So, for all of you who are not huge Godzilla fans, if anyone asks you what era we are currently in, we are in the Reiwa era.
Reiwa.
Uh, yeah, if you are considering the Japanese films only. And
So
oh,
would
so
that?
go.
Oh no, I was gonna say, does that include -1 as well?
Yes, -1, Shin
Okay,
Godzilla, the anime
Shin
Singular
Godzilla
Point.
animes. Okay,
Yeah, and the short films created by Toho, which you can actually find a
oh
lot of
yeah,
them on archive.org.
okay,
All of those are considered Reiwa era, and we are
okay.
presently in it.
Very cool. Wow, it's crazy to see that we have an era that we get to experience as well. Because
It's so awesome. We're
yeah,
currently living in this kaiju madness, you
yeah,
know. And
it's wild.
for those of you overseas, you may or may not be familiar with the American uh, reinterpretation. They already interpreted it once in 1998, but we brought it back again in 2014 with Godzilla, and then again
Mhm.
20, I think 19 with Godzilla King of the Monsters, then 2021 with Godzilla versus Kong, and then most recently 2024 Godzilla X Kong New Empire.
Yep.
Now that isn't a part of the Toho era lore.
No.
That is its own separate production company. It's its own separate thing. So
Mhm.
you have the four eras. You have Showa, Heisei, Millennium, and Reiwa,
Mhm.
and then you have the MonsterVerse, which is something that John and I actually have connected through, given our reconnection happened right before Godzilla X Kong New Empire came out, and that's something everyone pop culturally was
Yeah,
hearing about, at least here in the states.
it actually happened. I'm not even joking when I say this. Our reconnection happened about maybe a few months after Godzilla -1 came out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
had we had reconnected sooner, I bet you and me would have been in the theater screaming our heads off watching -1.
100%. Well, at least one of the times, because I saw actually, admittingly, I saw it in the theater 8 times, and that was in color.
That's
I saw it
insane, man.
twice in black and white.
That's wild. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that film was fantastic. I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot more very soon because that was
Yes.
just a fantastic movie.
But
Um,
just to round it out, all the eras and whatnot,
yep.
the MonsterVerse again is America's interpretation, and there it's literally just blockbuster monsters fighting. It's very
Mhm.
cool, but if you compare it to say 50 years ago to 70 years ago, the Showa era, it's completely different, and
Mhm.
that's pretty much how Godzilla has evolved and continues to evolve throughout the years.
100%. And you have to figure the MonsterVerse now that America created is just trying to cash in on the whole franchise thing that's going on
Yeah,
with the MCU, Star Wars, DCU, stuff like that, and
everything
they just
cinematic universe.
yeah, because now they even include King Kong in there. I mean, and I guess King Kong is technically considered a kaiju, but he's not like an OG kaiju from Japan like Godzilla was.
No. Well, funny enough, some Japanese, I even believe Ishiro Honda wanted to make a King Kong versus Godzilla movie, but
He did.
Universal said, that's our guy.
But they
That's our
did.
guy.
They eventually got the rights to do it, though, is the
But
thing.
originally they were gatekeeping it. And
Well,
that's
yeah.
funny.
Well, I mean, Universal, not to get off on a long tangent, but just real quick, it's like how Universal wouldn't let Hammer use the look of the monster in The Curse of Frankenstein. They said, no, you can't
Mm,
do that. It's copyrighted, which I'm glad they did originality there, but it's kind of the same thing. That's the only reason I bring that up.
yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder what exactly, like who makes the call when it comes to what does get shown, what does get reinterpreted, what does get remade, what does get included with overseas creations, film
Absolutely.
creations.
No, 100%. I think that's a great thing to kind of look at because when you look at all these different interpretations, you're kind of like everyone takes their own spin on it, and sometimes you're going, "Wow, that was really cool. That's really great." And and then other times you're going, how the hell do people come up with this?"
Nope,
And
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
so it's kind of a double standard there as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean America in its own light has created monster movies in many facets
Sure.
and has tried to, blow up this universe of monsters, but it really started in I think 2005 with King Kong, the one with Jack
Peter
Black and
Peter Jackson's.
yes, Peter Jackson. Honestly, I forgot Peter Jackson directed that, but
I
yes,
do
Peter
too.
Jackson.
Yeah.
And then after that, you start seeing a little bit more monster movies, a little bit more action-packed blockbusters. But then it completely comes back in 2014 with this, for lack of a better term, and pardon my language, but this badass monster who's just here to destroy
hmm
things.
No, absolutely. And also, I hated in Godzilla 2014 how they kind of dumbed down the pronunciation of Gojira in the film.
Remind me again how they
There's
pronounced
some
it.
guy, and because obviously this not in Japan, it's just this guy. He goes Gohila,
Go
and
Hugh.
I don't think he was
That's
supposed to
funny.
be that, but like it was
That's
like I
funny.
don't know if it was a deleted scene or if it was what, but
Mm,
I haven't seen it in any of the like theatrical official releases, but the version I
mm,
saw on TV that had it, there was that moment. So I don't know if it's an extended version of the film
yeah.
or a deleted scene because on TV they sometimes play the extended or the deleted scene version of the
Yeah.
film on
Yeah.
TV
Yeah.
because yeah. So anyways, but no, it's interesting to see how all that evolved for sure.
Yeah, and then to differentiate them, the Japanese, he's a symbol. And for the Americans, he's sort of like this powerhouse fantasy. And that's where they differ. And I
Mm.
think depending on, the person, the viewer themselves, I feel like out of all of the Godzilla movies that exist, you can find one that you can connect to or that you love. Even if
Mhm.
you've never
Oh,
seen a
100%.
Godzilla movie, even if you've never even heard of Godzilla, I don't know how you wouldn't, but even if you hadn't, I'm sure you could find one movie that tickles your fancy in that way because they're all so different.
100%. I think for me, the film that connected with me the most, and I'll say it right now, is Minus One. 100%.
Oh man.
Um,
Arguably one of the greatest Godzilla films, but also one of the greatest films in my
100%.
opinion. Yeah.
And there's a lot of that I really like about that film, but really coming back to the idea that you're talking about versus Japan versus US, I think the other thing is that Japan, Godzilla represented their worst nightmare. Of a
Yeah.
very real tragedy that happened.
Yeah.
And you have to realize too that Godzilla represents the countless amount of lives that were lost
Yeah.
in this attack and the amount of damage that had been caused and kind of like, okay, you mess with fire, this is what you're gonna get, It's kind
Yeah.
of really what that was. I feel like American treats Godzilla more as kind of like a supervillain or kind of like just this monster that goes around destroying stuff and just
Yeah.
like, all these other things and whatnot, which is cool to an extent, but it's kind of like I feel like the deeper storytelling is what made it special. And I think that the thing is that no matter what kind of story you're trying to tell, I feel like story should always be at the heart of it. I don't care even if it's a superhero movie or if it's an action movie. Story should always be at the heart of of whatever you want to tell, because if it's not going to hit, number one. But number
Yeah.
two, I know a lot of people are probably going to say, well, why does Godzilla need a story, or why does the Avengers need a story, or why does Transformers need a story? It's just a bunch of people going kicking ass, and
Yeah.
whatnot. And you don't realize that it's kind of like, well, then how do they kick ass? You know?
No, absolutely. There's a story to everything, even a backstory to everything, and to not
Why
want that,
why
just
do
like,
they? What makes them significant? Why are they called the Avengers,
yeah, why do we
Why?
connect to them?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that that's why story is so important. And I think it's often forgotten
Hmm.
because now you look at it and it comes back to my point again about the market, because they figure, oh, if we make it look more real, we'll draw in more money. And that's the only thing
Yeah.
they're thinking about. And
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
biggest problem. I think
Yeah.
with not just I'm not even going to blame the audience on that one, but the film system here is
Hmm.
it's very much based around money. That's your ticket into the
Hmm.
business, really, that or nepotism, really. I hate to say it. Nowadays more so.
And we were just talking about how within the span of let's say 35 years, Godzilla movies have changed. But even just talking about the MonsterVerse from 2014 to 2024,
Yep.
it changed so much. And that's just a span of 10 years, because you have Godzilla 2014 being this dark, almost action horror. And then you have the 2024 film sort of being like a joke. Like, granted, it was entertaining and fun, but like, Godzilla sleeping in a coliseum like a cat? Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing, America? What are you doing?
Well,
It
that
was fun. It was fun, and it had a crap ton of
yeah.
great merch, and it had a crap ton of great marketing. But at the end of the
And
day,
they're
even,
fun, but yeah.
and they're fun, exactly. But even then, it's still a huge jump in tone from America's original, an interpretation from 2014.
Yeah. And one thing I want to also add just really, really quickly here is another thing I notice, especially with the Americanized version of Godzilla, is oftentimes the biggest thing I've seen is if there is a story, it often relies on the humans or the people trying to control the monsters or trying to use it to their own benefit.
Oh, okay, that's a great point, because the Japanese see Godzilla as a
Mhm.
consequence and the Americans see it as a capability.
Yes,
They're like, how
exactly.
can we use Godzilla? How what tool
Well, I
can we
mean,
create him into?
you look at the MonsterVerse. That's the whole thing they're trying to figure out. Is kind of
Yeah.
like, because you obviously can't tell Godzilla, "Hey, go beat this guy up for me." I mean,
Yeah.
he's not going to understand you. I mean,
Yeah.
or if he does understand you, he's going to destroy the whole town at the same time.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
probably going to destroy the town, pick up your buddy, boom, 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 and throw him down like a rag doll, and then there goes the whole city.
Well, I don't know how familiar you are with. Did you watch the Monarch Legacy of Monsters series on Apple TV?
No, I have not, unfortunately.
So I'm not going to spoil too much, but I am going to spoil sort of like the ending, just so that you guys know exactly what's coming for Godzilla lore. And I
Mhm.
think this is the direction that the MonsterVerse is actually heading,
Okay.
given the 2024 uh, Godzilla
Mhm.
Kong New Empire.
Yep.
But at the end, Monarch, which is the basically the monster hunting government part
Yep.
of the United States,
Yeah.
they create Apex, or they Apex is created through what is going on, and Apex is a money hungry, power hungry company,
Mhm.
and they're actually the ones in the MonsterVerse who create Mecha Godzilla. So you can see that the trajectory is probably going to be more commercialized in, like, look at these big monsters fighting, going back
Mhm.
to 2014. And I think
Yeah.
that's where the MonsterVerse should have stayed.
Oh, 100%. No, I think that that's kind of where exactly. I think that's where it should have been in that sense, and I feel like it just got way too off trajectory when
Yeah.
they were trying to figure out, like, okay, because really MonsterVerse movies, if you think about it, it's mostly like, like we have this big threat. Can we get Godzilla to go there? Can we get this to happen?
Yeah.
Can you get Kong to do this? Can you get all these different people? And even when Mothra came back in Godzilla X Kong, they're trying to figure out what this is. And again, it goes to that extent. But the thing I love about Mothra is like, nope, I'm out of here. Is like, and it's like, I'm the only one who's gonna bring peace here.
Yeah, yeah, and even then, I don't know if it's specifically Americanized, but they're starting this whole new thing where it's like the Hollow Earth, and we're
Yes,
probably going to be introduced to even more monsters that,
thank you.
the Japanese didn't even consider,
I
So
was gonna.
that in its own light is fun.
I mean, it's fun, exactly. But I mean, like, I guess my whole thing about it is, it's kind of like how far can you really go, with that as well.
Well,
And
I've heard rumors that the upcoming Kaiju
mhm,
films coming out of Legendary, which is the
mhm,
production company here in the United States,
yeah,
is going to actually shift focus from Godzilla to Kong. So we're going to see more Kong lore. We're going to see more action with
okay.
Kong, which is something that, we've missed throughout the past 70 plus years of really just seeing G-Man at the top of the tower.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with Kong is that, you have to also figure too, Kong is an American creation as well.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I think the thing is that, obviously demand for Godzilla went way up, but it's kind of like Kong is kind of stuck back here and he's kind of like, "Hey bro, what's up?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I think really with this change, I think it would be nice to see some more Kong because really the only King Kong movies I know of are the OG 1933 film and Peter Jackson's 2005. I mean, there's probably others in there, but those are the only two that really jump out at me. Whereas Godzilla, I can think of so many that jump out
Yep.
at me.
Yep, and it's
So
so funny because the iconic scene of Kong on the Empire State Building fighting those fighter jets and then holding on to a woman, it's
mhm.
so ingrained in pop culture, yet we don't
Yeah.
have more than or more than 10 movies of him, you
And
know?
that part is only literally not even 5 minutes of the movie, yet
Not
it's
even
the
5 minutes.
most iconic part of the movie. And
Hmm.
like you're gonna be sitting watching this movie, and you're gonna be just in a jungle for the majority of it, and only in the last maybe 15 to 20 minutes are you gonna see New York City.
Yeah, yeah, and
Whereas
and
in
that. Oh, go ahead. So sorry. So sorry.
I was gonna say, whereas in Peter Jackson's film, he really expands that
Oh
whole
yeah.
idea. I mean, I think there's a whole part in that film where the film takes place in New York
Well,
versus the
Peter
OG.
Jackson really perfected what it is to do an American monster movie, especially after what is considered that atrocity of the 1998 Zilla film.
Mhm.
Again, I love it, but
They should have
culturally,
got Peter Jackson to direct that. I mean, I think that would have
yeah,
been that would have been a cool film.
he was
If you-
probably really busy crying over Lord of the Rings.
That's true. He had just gotten done with Lord of the Rings, and you can
Yeah.
imagine how painstakingly that was. So he's probably
Well,
like,
his plate was super full, so that
so he's
makes
like,
sense.
he's like, what do I do? How do I balance this? You know what? I grew up more with Godzilla. I like God, or no, I mean King Kong more. I know more of the Kong stuff, and let's do it for a new audience. Yeah, I'm choosing King Kong.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
then,
then you had such great CGI. Do you remember that Tyrannosaurus Rex being just torn apart?
yes, that was
Oh
wild.
man, one of the most memorable scenes in
And
any
that's
movie, really. And
PG-13.
it's
Keep in mind
PG-13, people.
that
Oh
movie's PG-13,
man,
and it's like what? It's a lot longer than the original film.
I
The
think it's
original,
like 2 hours 50 minutes.
it's something like that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
look that up real quick. But anyhow,
yeah.
no, I think it's great that we look at all this, and it's wild to see how going back and forth between the two, that just how America saw Godzilla, how Japan saw Godzilla, and it's crazy to see how many differences there are, but yet at the end of the day, it seems like there's something for everybody, and I think that's the best
Hmm.
part about it.
Yeah, and I think given any cinematic universe, you have films and characters that you fall in love with. And I think
Mm.
the monster world and the kaiju world did so well because there's literally a monster for everyone. There's a film for everyone. Heck, if you're not into the Japanese films, you have
Mhm.
a plethora of monsters to choose from the monsterverse itself, from the American monsterverse itself. And to just circle around what I was saying about Kong is that it seems like even he is going to start getting more spotlight, and that's amazing given
Mm.
the trajectory that the United States films were going given the past like 5 years. So we're very hopeful as at least Americans for what's to come with
Gotcha.
kaiju content.
For sure. So King Kong 2025 is 3 hours and 7 minutes.
3 hours and seven. Oh wait, 2005.
Yes.
3 hours 7 minutes.
Yeah. Keep in
Oh
mind, an
man.
OG King Kong is an hour and 40 minutes. So think
Oh
about
yeah.
how much Peter Jackson expanded on that.
Well, even then, that's still pretty long, considering most of the Japanese films didn't go over an hour and a half.
That's true. OG Godzilla, I don't think is even that long.
I think it's like an hour and 20, maybe an hour 40.
Yeah, that's a really uh Godzilla. Godzilla. Let's see how long. Of course, the first thing I get is Broadwick in 2014. I do not want those. 54, that's what I want. An hour and 36 minutes.
36. Okay, okay. So it's a little shy under, a little shy under. But they don't really hit. It's very rare that they hit the 2 hour mark, and then you start seeing. I think it started in like it should have started in the Heisei or in the millennium era, where they started getting into the 2 hours, 2:10 mark, and then obviously in 2005 it's surpassing the 3 hour mark. And just for reference, guys, and just for
Mhm.
perspective as well, 2005 was what, yeah, literally 20 years ago. I
About,
was 9
yeah.
years old. John, you were 8, right? You're a year younger than me.
Yeah, I was about eight. When I gotta remember when that came out though, is the thing.
Didn't it come out
Um,
to 2005?
it came out 2005. I'm talking about the month.
Oh, I see, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
So
you're talking, yeah, when we're talking Kong
I
oh
think
05.
June. I think it came out in June, but I could
I
be
think
wrong.
you're right, because I think it was a summer, because I remember the marketing for this
Was
film
it a
too was
summer?
crazy.
Could have been Christmas too. Dang it, I can't remember honestly.
December, it was Christmas.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay. I
so I
figured
would have
because
been eight. Yes, you are correct. I would have been eight because I remember the marketing for that film. It was off the chain.
yeah, so I was 9 years old, and to sit an 8 and 9 year old in a movie for 3 hours and have our jaws being dropped the entire time, that's a big thing. That's a big feat too.
Exactly, 100%. Wow, I think that's really good. I think, I think we've covered a lot of great stuff with the above, but I think it'd be good to move down now to, really kind of what makes a great kaiju film. And I'm going to be honest with you, you look at all these things, design, tone, message. I think really at the end of the day, and I've been talking about it for so long, and I've been mentioning it throughout this entire episode, is all of the above, but I would also say the most important thing is a good story.
A good story. Yep.
And the reason I say that is because I mean, look at what happened, and this is where I'm going to bring Godzilla minus one up now.
Yep.
Look at what happened with that film compared to a lot of the other MonsterVerse films. MonsterVerse, you can see just how they're kind of going down the more action packed kind of, cinematic universe vibe. And then you have Godzilla minus one that comes out in 2023, and it blows audiences away to the point where even American audiences are wowed.
Oh yeah, and do
And
you know how many Americans are opposed to watching a freaking movie with subtitles?
yeah, and look at how much money it made here in the US. I mean, it wasn't
Mm,
obviously it didn't break the box office like Barbie, Oppenheimer, or any of those movies, but
for a $15
still,
million
for a
budget though, that is insane.
15 million?
I thought that's what I
That's
heard.
all that they got for that movie?
No, 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 the budget.
No, that's what I mean. The budget. That was the budget for minus one?
Let me triple check.
Oh
Let me
my
triple
God.
check. Budget
That is a small
for
budget for a Godzilla movie.
minus one. Well, I'm hoping that's the case. Between 10 and 15.
Yo!
I'm sure that was
That movie.
literally just the cost to get Margot Robbie into Barbie.
No, exactly. That's literally Margot Robbie's salary. That's
hmm
wild. Um, yeah,
And it
that
was
is
never released dubbed too, up until like I think like a week after.
well,
Or
Netflix.
I can't say that it was never released dubbed theatrically because it was about a week after, but the fact that the first week that it came out, people had to watch it in subtitles, and a lot of people don't like subtitles.
Oh, and then it's funny. Then when the dub version came out, people started demanding wanting the subtitled version.
Yeah, I know, that's
And the
hilarious.
reason being is because it feels more authentic. I would personally rather have the subtitle because I want to hear the authentic language that this movie is in.
And no hate to dub artists, we
No.
appreciate it as an art. Obviously, we see that there's a lot of talent and time that goes into it.
Mhm.
But you are doing yourself an injustice if you are watching the dubbed version
Yes,
of
you are.
Godzilla minus one. You are doing yourself
Hmm.
an injustice.
Especially, there's a few languages where I feel like you should not watch a dub movie, and Japan is one of them.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's such a beautiful language.
it is. Japanese, I feel like is a language you should not watch dubbed. French, if you can bear it, if you can bear through all of that, I think it's another one. So, movies like, of course, Amelie. I remember when that came out. I remember there was a dub version as well. Just didn't hit it for me, and I
Oh,
watched
I
the
can't
original
imagine
version,
watching the dubbed version. Yeah.
and then I watched the original version that's in French. Much better film.
Well, that's
And
the thing. I feel like if done correctly, it can be done well and it can be
mhm.
appreciated. But to take away from the original intent of the creators, I feel like you're doing yourself an injustice.
Well, not only injustice, it's unfair.
It's unfair.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
100% unfair.
really.
But anyways, back to what I was saying. I feel like the thing with minus one that it did so much better than the others is it told a good story.
One of the best.
And the thing I liked about Godzilla minus one story was it delved into something even deeper than the OG film delved into. The
Mm.
OG film mostly dealt with fear and how the country felt as a whole, and, really how people felt, and, kind of the fear of Godzilla. Godzilla minus one took that idea and it added the idea that life is sacred.
And
And
it gave
that
us
was
hope as
it gave us
humanity.
hope as humanity, and it reminds us that, even if feel that you don't like a certain person, or you feel like a certain person doesn't deserve a whole lot or whatnot, whatever, remember at the end of the day that, yeah, there are some people that are just evil and should not exist. But at the end of the day, I think it reminds us that no matter what, life is a sacred thing and it should be treated with respect, because you only get one. And once that life is gone, that's it.
Yeah, and you see it perfectly through the eyes of the protagonist Koichi.
Yep.
And he, at the beginning of the film, he's a fighter pilot, kamikaze. He deals not only with the physical monster of Godzilla, but the internal strife of what it means to feel fear as a man, to feel fear as a human being, and
Yes.
also to be disappointed and have regrets. And you don't
Mhm.
really see that throughout any Godzilla film, really,
No.
except Shin. You have Shin Godzilla came out in 2016, and that is
Yes.
part of the Reiwa era, but you don't really see that much to the extent that Godzilla minus one brought it into play, because you have such hope in humanity personified through a grieving people, but also through the monster itself, and then also
Mhm.
through the characters, because not only do you fall in love with the monster, but
I believe
you
so. I
fall in
think
love
you're
with every little thing of that movie, and I've rarely heard someone say that they don't like it.
same. I haven't heard many people say that they did not like Godzilla minus one. I mean, the majority of people I showed, even one of my friends who's not really a fan of Godzilla, he
Mm.
really doesn't like these type of movies. When I took him to watch
Mhm.
Godzilla minus one, he absolutely loved it. He thought it was
Oh
one of the
man.
best movies of that year. And, it was so cool to see, how everyone played a big part in a bigger picture. And I think really what made
Mhm.
Godzilla minus one succeed is it took a pre-existing idea and made it original. And
Exactly,
and it told a
exactly.
good story. And I think that's why that film succeeds. So I think what makes a good kaiju film is a good story.
Absolutely. And then just to top it off, little cherry on top to it, add
Yep.
to one more thing about how great Godzilla minus one is. The films prior to that, pretty much since 1954, it's really divisive in
Excuse
the
me.
way that it's Godzilla versus the Japanese people
Yep.
versus America.
Yep.
And in this film, along with Shin, which came out a couple of years prior,
Mhm.
they actually beg the question that can we even trust our own government? It's literally quoted within Godzilla minus one that they
Yes.
can't trust the Japanese government. And I know that so many people share that sentiment with their own government, to where it's like, we as people, what can we trust about them? And then what can
Mhm.
we get from the safety that they provide from us? And that was so refreshing to see. And I feel like a lot of people from Japan needed to hear that
Yeah.
as well, because you have all of this patriotism for one's country, rightfully
Mhm.
so. You should be proud of where you come from for the
Mhm.
most part. but you also don't really see too much media begging the question of how much can we trust them. And this film sort
Mhm.
of turned that on its head to where we have to trust our neighbors. We
Mhm.
have to trust ourselves. We can't
Yeah.
rely solely on politicians and and war and this and
Mhm.
that, you know?
And I think that plays into the idea too that we were just talking about of, of life is sacred. I mean, you look at the idea
Exactly.
of, our main character, he's a kamikaze pilot, and you can see that.
Hmm.
And one of the things that's quoted early off is our country and government has treated life and blood so cheaply, is one of the things that he says.
Absolutely.
And you have to remember that, unlike so many other countries, Japan's government was literally sending people to die, telling them, you're going to fly this plane,
Yeah.
you're going to crash it, and you are going to die for your
Yeah.
country. But really,
Yeah.
Godzilla minus one begs the question of, is it really worth it? And that's why I think it's so powerful, not to spoil the
Exactly.
ending, that it comes full circle from why didn't you do your duty to live your fullest life that you can and enjoy every moment.
Absolutely. And to think that a Godzilla movie can bring all of these themes and wrap it into a nice little bow, something that is timeless, is kind of crazy, especially for if I had never heard of Godzilla or didn't know what Godzilla was truly about, I would be mind blown just even hearing that part.
Absolutely, 100%. And it also got Godzilla his first Oscar
Yeah. Yeah. Sound
ever,
design.
ever. Yes. No, visual effects.
Oh, visual was it visual effects?
Visual
Let's
effects.
go. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Over Avengers, over everything, well, not Avengers, Guardians 3, over every
Oh yeah,
big
Guardians
major
3.
over every big major special effects guru, Godzilla beat all
Oh,
of them out.
well, if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's I think currently on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. They have
And
both the OG and they have the minus color.
oh man, Minus Color's beautiful too, guys. If you
Minus
guys have
color is
not checked
awesome.
that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the visual effects, guys, it's gonna blow you away. If you
Now,
haven't seen it, it's gonna blow you away.
now, real quick before we move on, I heard somewhere that this film might get a sequel. Is that true?
Oh yes, that was confirmed actually at
So it's official.
G-Fest this year. Yes, it's gonna be
Okay.
Godzilla. Uh, this one is -0 or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay. I didn't know
the
if that was
title
real or
it's
not. So that's why I had to ask you.
well, the title itself, the director mentioned that he titled it -1 because they were already at rock bottom after war,
Yep.
and Godzilla coming was just putting them in the
Mhm.
negatives when it came to emotion, when it came to hope, when it came to
Yep.
everything. So now that it would be Godzilla -0, I'm wondering, what else could happen? Are they going to bring back Mothra? Are they going to bring back all these
Well,
kaiju that we know and
also,
love?
don't forget the person who survived at the, I forget her name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah,
had,
yeah.
I'm not going to say it, but you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean.
I know what you
You don't
mean.
know where it's going to go. So
Yeah, yeah,
oh, I'm
yeah.
excited. But,
I'm excited too. I don't know what's to come, but it's gonna be one for the ride or one for the books. It's gonna be a wild ride.
absolutely, 100%. Alrighty, so segment two, we talked a lot about how the kaiju lore was kind of born and how Godzilla came up, and we talked a lot about the kind of origin and history of Godzilla, and really kind of what Godzilla represents for each side and everywhere. But now I think we can kind of delve into kind of our relationship with Godzilla, because the thing
Oh
is
man,
that
yeah,
everyone has a different relationship with whatever type of media they consume, but Godzilla is a whole nother can of worms. Whether you found Godzilla on the shelf of a clearance store, or whether you found Godzilla because somebody liked it, or because of somebody, there's just a uniqueness to the fact of how people come to find kaiju, because of the fact
yeah,
that it's not something that's for everyone, but yet at the same time, it is something for everyone.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how did you discover Godzilla? Because I know you are one of the biggest Godzilla fans on this planet, and ever since we've been friends, that has been one thing that has been on our radar, is the fact that we both love Godzilla. But I've never had the opportunity to ask you. So, my friend, how did you get into and discover Godzilla?
Ironically, it was through the worst movie in the franchise, according to true fans. And I do consider myself a true fan, but a lot of people look at me. They give me the side eye when I say that I
90
was in
is it?
the '98. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I was 5 years old when my neighbor Daniel purchased it on VHS,
Okay.
and he invited me over to watch it. And I think he was a couple years older than me, so he was able to watch because I believe it has either a PG-13 or a rated R rating. And
Okay.
his mom thought he was old enough to watch it, so we were watching it in his room. And I thought this is the greatest movie ever. So I would come over every now and then
Mhm.
to just watch that Godzilla movie. And to this day, there are memories of me watching it and getting goosebumps of the Madison Square Garden scene with all the
Mhm.
mini Zillas and the subway scenes and Matthew Broderick in some Latin American country in the middle of a Godzilla footprint, like
Mhm.
those images are ingrained in my memory.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've just delved at different times in my life into who Godzilla really is. And I didn't really do justice to Godzilla and who he was up until about 10 years ago, where I did a really big deep dive. And that has just
Okay.
continued to grow and grow and grow. And I would
Nice.
say most of my venture to the movies, the comics, the games, everything
Mhm.
happened within that span of like maybe 10 to 6 years.
100%. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Yeah, what
awesome.
about you, my friend?
So I discovered Godzilla a lot later in life. Here's the thing. I heard of Godzilla. I knew who Godzilla was, but actually having wanting to watch these films was a bit of a difficult road, sorry. Because I didn't really know where to start. I didn't know how I'd feel about it when and then it was actually my two factors. I mentioned this YouTuber in the last episode that we did on Monster Madness, and that is the YouTuber Cinemassacre or the Angry Video Game Nerd, whatever you want to call him. He's also a massive Godzilla fan, and one of his Monster Madness years, he did what was called Godzillathon, where he went through all of the
Ooh.
Godzilla films. And it was one of the funniest things. He has titles in there that I never even heard of. There's one he talked about that I remember vividly called Godzilla's Revenge, also known as, I believe, All Monsters. It's one of the '70s ones, so it's right as the Showa era was about to close out, is the thing.
Okay.
And what but it was known as Godzilla's Revenge was the name of it. Or All Monsters Attack was
Oh,
the
all
alternative name of
monsters
it.
attack. Oh
Yep.
man, that one in the Showa era is definitely seen as the joke. I personally love it because it's about a
Mm,
kid who gets bullied, and
yep.
I was a kid who got bullied.
Yep. And apparently the one of the titles of it was called Godzilla's Revenge. And so the big question
Really?
he asks about is he goes, who do you get revenge on anyways? Like, who does Godzilla have to get revenge on? It's kind of like,
Oh man.
that's kind of what we're thinking. Because even when he's
Yeah.
fighting Ghidorah or he's fighting all these other monsters, he's not really trying to get revenge. It's kind of like who does Godzilla have a bloodlust for?
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Yep.
he
Yep.
kind of brought that up, and then I thought that was interesting. And then but then the other person who you might be surprised to learn was a massive Godzilla fan was my mother.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
so my mom obviously is not a nerd about it, but she has her own love for it. So basically, when my mom was young, there was not a whole lot to watch on TV because it was just her and my grandmother, really.
Okay.
My grandfather was not really around. It didn't really come back into her life until much later. I mean, he was there, but come
Mm.
back as in like a support kind of mode, I should say. And so it was just them for a long time, and you have to figure my mom did and them did not have the means to get cable packages or anything major. So
Oh, okay.
oftentimes they just relied on like rabbit ears. And oftentimes what would play on just those channels were kaiju related media because of the
Yeah.
fact that they figure, oh, we can just put this on to block some time, you know?
Yeah.
And that is how my mom got exposed to Godzilla. And my mother loved Godzilla. My mother was the one who introduced me to who Mothra was. My mom introduced me to Godzilla. My mom introduced me to King Ghidorah. My mom introduced me to Mega Godzilla. So you have to figure Megalon as well, you know, all these different kinds of characters. And so really I have to thank my mom for that as well. And then
That's
that's kind of how
beautiful.
my love for Godzilla kind of started to grow. And I'm still on the journey right now as well because I still have a lot more films I need to see. And the one I want to see so bad is Shin Godzilla. I know that probably sounds like a sin to most of you, but I really want to watch that film because of
It's a
how
beautiful
many
film.
I've heard so many good things about it, and people have told me if you liked -1, you'll most likely like Shin Godzilla.
Well, actually, right before we started recording, John, I just want to say this out for the audience
Yep.
and for our listeners out there. Currently, I believe they re-released the 4K and Blu-ray edition, and I believe you can buy
Oh,
it
okay.
actually in stores currently.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I think you can get it on a free subscription of Crunchyroll. I know it's on Crunchyroll for sure, because that was one of the original places that it played. But I don't know if you have to subscribe and pay for it. So in the case that you guys are looking for it, there are a few ways that you guys can find it because at one point it was nearly impossible to find.
It was, and that's the main reason why I was like, shoot, am I gonna have to bootleg it? Am I gonna have to, am I gonna have to ask if you can mail it down to me, or something? But
Absolutely, I would. You know, I would.
I know you would. It's just I didn't want to go through the trouble of that unless it was something to where it's like I there's no way I'm gonna find it,
I
But
get that. I
but
get
but
that.
because now I probably can find it, I'll probably go try and find my own copy.
Yeah.
And I also want a physical copy of -1, possibly if I can eventually. Hopefully, because you don't know the thing with Netflix. I mean, Netflix goes up and
Yeah.
down all the time, and it's
Yeah.
been on there ever since its physical release. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I want that Blu-ray or 4K.
But even then, the physical release released first in Japan about 4 months before it actually physically released here in the
I
United States.
know. I was so there, and there were people who were mad about that, which was crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
Um,
was one of those people.
so was I.
Selfishly.
No, so was I. I
Um,
was so mad that we couldn't find -1 for the longest time. But
the second it was released to US audiences, I purchased the Blu-ray, but then I realized it didn't come with the minus color edition. So I
yeah.
pre-ordered the Toho minus color that came out a year later, and I have actually both
Oh
of them.
my gosh, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
I
now
I
I
need
gotta
to.
get it on VHS.
Dude, is there a VHS of that?
Well, there are a couple companies that, or well, their Instagram accounts
Yeah.
that they sell VHS copies of new movies, and I want to get my hands on one of them,
Oh,
but
that's crazy.
it's just dropping 50 to 60 bucks. It's being mentally prepared for
Can you
that.
imagine Avengers Endgame on VHS?
You would need the double pack, that's
You
for
would need
sure.
I was gonna say you need the double pack. That would be so cool. It would be crazy to think what the cover arts for some of these would be because VHS cover art was very different than poster or DVD art.
Well, a lot of the Instagram accounts that I follow, they make their own art or they outsource to artists that they know, and they make them look like they were made in the 80s. It's really cool. I'll send you some over Instagram.
Yes, please do. Please, absolutely do. So, that'd be yo, someone on Etsy has a cool one. That's crazy. The best Godzilla in 30 years, Godzilla -1. If you're on YouTube, I'm gonna show you this. If not, go check it out on YouTube. Look at this.
That's Oh man, that's beautiful. Sorry, I didn't mean to blow up the
No, you're
mic, but
good.
that
You're
is
good. You're good.
beautiful.
So yeah, so
Oh
that's wild. So
man.
for those of you not listening on YouTube, it
Something
literally
from the
looks like
70s,
something
80s.
from the 70s, 80s. It looks like the cover of probably like one of the Heisei era Godzillas.
Yeah, that's actually spot on. That's spot on.
That is so dope.
Yeah,
I want it. I
I
want it. I
know.
want it. I want it so
I
bad.
know.
Anyhow,
Um,
oh my gosh. And also, to add to my love for Godzilla, I'm also a major, as you know, and as the audience is about to learn now, I am a massive rock and roll fan, especially from the 60s, 70s, 80s. So I was raised with all the greats. I was raised with Elvis. I was raised with the Beatles, the Who, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Rush, all these other bands. And one of the acts that I really loved from the 70s was Blue Oyster Cult. And of
I was
course,
just about to say. I was just about to say.
yep, and of course they have They pretty much made Godzilla his own theme song.
Hmm.
And it's not
Hmm.
just the da 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 da. No, he actually has a song with his name in it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Godzilla.
Oh
So he has
man.
his own song.
Oh man.
When is somebody going to use that for his theme? That's what I want to know.
It's funny the music choice that every director has. They either
Mhm.
go full blown instrumental or they go, for example, in the Millennium era and do some American pop punk. I don't know.
That's like the one track I would not be mad if they used to introduce him. Like I
Yeah,
would be, I'd be freaking out if they did
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then for those of you metalheads, I am sure a lot of you are familiar with the notable
Mhm.
notable band Gojira,
Mhm.
and I'm waiting for one of their songs to come up on maybe a Toho release or
Mhm.
even Monsterverse release. I think that would be awesome.
100%. And speaking of Toho, I think that was the best thing that could have happened to the modern era of Godzilla as well was Toho coming back into the picture with films like Shin Godzilla, Godzilla Minus One, and all these films that we're getting now because I feel like Godzilla had kind of lost their footing and Toho was kind of like, no, we're going to
Yeah,
help you regain your footing and we're going to give you all the stuff you want to see too, in a
absolutely.
sense.
And like you said, Godzilla Minus One is getting a sequel, a confirmed sequel at that.
Oh,
Therefore, I'm sure
yeah.
there's even more in the books for what's to come, especially when it comes to individual standalone kaiju films. Like, are we going to get a standalone Mothra film soon by the same director? Are we going to get
That
a
would be
standalone?
nuts.
Right. And then you have a little bit of everything. You can enjoy that, but then you can also enjoy the MonsterVerse too. So it's like we're
Yes.
we're living in the perfect time to be a Godzilla fan.
Yeah, and I mean, look at what happened. It was perfectly timed that Minus One comes out, and then only about maybe 5 or 6 months later, Godzilla X Kong comes out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the strategic marketing and planning of these movies too is also genius because it's kind of like you don't have to just say goodbye to Godzilla now. You get to see you'll see him later. I'm not going to see you, but I'm going to see that Godzilla.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you're wondering, well, why are there only certain monsters showcased in the MonsterVerse? Well, it's because Toho has the license for all the monsters, and I'm not going to say they gatekeep, but they are very selective on who Americans can interpret or reinterpret or give
Yeah,
renditions to.
sure. Yeah,
So
100%.
let's hope maybe one day it'll be a little bit more lenient and we get to see something really cool like I don't know, Godzilla versus Destoroyah, but in the Monsterverse. I think that would be so
Yeah.
awesome.
Can you imagine if Legendary and Toho and Warner combined it to make the ultimate Godzilla film?
Whoa, honestly, I can't even wrap my mind around it because it would just be I can't even imagine what it would look like. What do you think?
It's kind of hard. I know there's probably a lot of people who are looking at me like, "Oh no, 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 John, don't go there. Don't even go there. Don't even think about it." Yes, I'm going to go there. And here's why. Because I think
Blasphemy.
because I think you could create a good film using both of those studios and both of those elements to bring forth an amazing kaiju film.
Do you think that that could be a possibility for Godzilla Minus Zero? That
No,
they're
I
going to
think
do like some
I
sort of collaboration for that, or do you think that's just going to be
I
Toho?
think it's just going to be Toho. I mean,
Okay.
for the Godzilla minus one stuff, I think all that should just be Toho. What
Okay.
I mean is going forward, if they join forces to make like a new original story,
Oh, so like create their own era then.
yeah, create their own era. I
Oh
don't know what you
man.
would call that.
Oh,
The Toe Agassi
the
era. I don't
Toegacy. We're calling it now, people.
the Toe Agassi era.
Toegacy. That's kind of badass. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, Toe Agassi. That would be yeah, combining Toho and Legendary. So
That is so funny. I would
yes.
love to see that. I mean, I've said this in different circumstances, not on the podcast, but if you guys know me well, and John has heard me say this many times,
Mhm.
I don't think there's such thing as a bad Godzilla. I don't
Yeah.
think there's such thing as bad Godzilla content, whether it's book, comic,
No.
movie, show, whatever. We'll
I-
take what we can get.
I'd agree with that. I don't think there's a bad one either. I think there's weak Godzilla films. And I
100%.
think
Yeah.
that there's films that aren't that great, but at the end of the day, I don't hate them.
Yeah.
I'll never reject and I'll whatever movie comes out that has Godzilla in it, I will absolutely go see because
Yeah.
Godzilla to me
100%.
is an icon.
100%.
So
100%.
yeah, and I think To be honest with you, I think going back to the OG formula for that was the best thing. And I think the
Mhm.
reason that we talk about that one so much, especially Godzilla minus one, is because of the fact that it plays a big role in our friendship and it plays a big role in who we are as people.
Yeah, for
So that's
sure, for
why
sure.
we do bring it up a lot. But one other thing I thought I'd ask you too is why do you think humans empathize with giant monsters at times? I know that's something that sounds kind of strange, but it's kind of like really when you think about it, at the end of the day, it's like you do have people who actually empathize and feel for some of these
Yeah.
characters as well, like Godzilla, like Kong and all that. So why do you think that is?
Well, not to delve too deep into this existential idea of my
Mhm.
answer or of it through my answer,
Yeah.
but in every circumstance, whether it is through film or through comic that has to do with Godzilla lore, every monster was either created or born into a world that they didn't choose, and they were put into
Yep.
life or brought to life without their choice.
Mhm.
Obviously, same as humans, we don't choose to exist, we don't choose to be born, we don't choose any of these
Mhm.
things, but we are all in a way indirect consequences of our past, of our history, of our country, even to go even farther. And I think the reason why we empathize is because those monsters are misunderstood and we're misunderstood. The gray
Ooh.
line is
Ooh.
literally so freaking blurred. At the end of the day, you can say it's X monster versus X monster and one is good and one is bad, but at the end of the day, everything is so nuanced, just as us humans.
Yeah.
And I think those two things, us, you know, or actually, I think that being misunderstood and also standing for something, which every monster does in one way or another, and every
Yep.
human does in one way or another, I think those two things are what define existence and what it means
Sure.
to be alive. And I think that
Yeah.
that is the most humbling thing that we're reminded of when seeing these monsters.
I have to agree. I think that's a beautiful way to put it, and it kind of even comes back to what we were talking about the last episode with Frankenstein,
Mhm, mhm.
you have somebody who's born into existence not being asked to, but because his creator wanted to prove that he was the best of the best and could do
Mhm.
all these other things. And he becomes the consequence of this character who was selfish and wanted to play God. Whereas, Godzilla is the consequence of, when humans lay waste to the world,
Yeah.
and
Well said.
really you have kind of this character that represents all of that in one. And
Mhm.
the fact of the matter that Godzilla's kind of going around just doing his thing, like you say, he didn't ask to be born, he didn't ask to be brought back. He's just kind of like, y'all dropped the bomb and here I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And whatnot. And
Exactly.
so you have that, but I'm gonna expand on that a bit too. I think there's another reason that humans also empathize with giant monsters. I feel like monsters also, especially in the subjective form, represent sometimes our worst fears. And I think for Japan,
Oh.
Godzilla represented the fear of being attacked or being annihilated,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and
Mortality
some of the
in
biggest
the weakest way.
tragedies.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think even Frankenstein, if you look at the Frankenstein monster that way, I bring it up just to bring up another point because
Yeah.
I think also kind of shows us the fears of who we are as humans, what we're capable of,
What we're capable of.
and not only what we're capable of, but what we're willing to do to get what we want.
And what we're
And
willing to sacrifice too.
exactly. And it reminds us that we're all capable of doing bad things. We're all capable of doing
Mm.
evil, bad things. And I think that's a scary point because sometimes people think like, oh, I could never hurt someone. I could never do this. And you don't realize what would happen if your animal instincts took over,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Even
whatnot.
indirectly
Yeah.
believing something, voting for something, this or
Yes.
that, we're all
Yeah.
interconnected.
We're all interconnected. And I feel that when humans can relate to something like a fear or something in that realm, it draws us to this said monster or character because we all, I think, at the end of the day, we all have fears. We all fear something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when we're willing to admit to that fear, and when we create stuff like Godzilla or Frankenstein or stories like this, it's not as scary because it becomes a shared experience of how,
The means of coping through art.
yeah, means of coping through art. So I think really that's another form of how we can empathize with these characters.
That's a great point because it's an art form, and we talked about in the last episode as well that um the reflections of life come through art, and the way that we understand the world is through art. And even if it's something as beautiful as a poem or as scruffy as a suit mated monster going through a bog or whatever, it can all be just a reflection of who we are as humans, of our pain, of our suffering, but also of our love, our hope, and our will to live and create a better future.
100%. I think that's beautifully stated. I think that's just a wonderful thing. And, I think really at the end of the day, these characters exist because a group of people came together and said, we do not want to have this happen again. And they created these characters to be a reminder of the different fears that live inside all of us.
Here, here.
100%.
Exactly.
Anyhow, after a very pivotal moment,
Oh my
we
goodness.
get to the era, or the era. Yeah, I guess, I'm going to say era because Godzilla is all about eras, right?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
get
There
to
we
the
go.
era that we love the most on this, and that is the fun facts and trivia section,
Fun
Godzilla
facts and
edition.
trivia.
What a difference.
Ow.
I wish we could have an actual audio clip of that in the form of the Blockbuster ad.
Oh man, we should get on top of that
We
maybe
should get
for
on top of that. I mean,
2026.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We need to get on top of that for 26. So when we get to the era, we can just have fun facts and trivia. Ow, what a
What a difference.
difference. Yeah, I think that would be so cool and then make it our own thing. So we got to get on top
Exactly.
of that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put it on my list.
Absolutely. So here we go. Fun facts and trivia Godzilla edition. This is going to be
Let's
interesting. So, the
go.
first fun fact that I have is Godzilla's original Japanese name, Gojira, is a portmanteau of the words gorilla and whale. The monster was created in 1954 to symbolize the fear of nuclear weapons following the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, something we already have kind of touched on, but I did not know it meant gorilla and whale. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. It's left to speculation exactly what came from the Japanese interpretation to the American interpretation with Godzilla,
Yep.
but Gojira, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is really cool because Gojira is actually the OG name if you think about
Oh
it.
yeah, no, it is, it is.
That's the original name, and then a bunch of other people just called him Godzilla. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what Americans thought they were saying. They thought
yeah,
the Japanese were saying Godzilla.
Godzilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, number two. To keep Godzilla from being seen as a mere monster that eats people, it is not allowed to eat humans in most versions, including the original Japanese 1954 film. Instead, it primarily feeds on radiation or large fish. So the idea that Godzilla eats people and stomps and terrorizes others is far from the truth. Now, he does terrorize people, but it's in a very different way than you see it in a lot of these other movies. And some of these other movies, he's just going through destroying civilization after civilization. But in a lot of the OG movies, it's very specific Godzilla's targets
Yeah.
and how Godzilla goes about his rampage, and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's very story and oriented and such. And so most of the time, no, you're not going to see him picking up people or eating them. Most of the time, the destruction just comes from the fact that he's big and he's just trying to get to the crosswalk basically.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I mean, technically, he really only lives off of radiation, things that are radiated. So
exactly.
him eating a human is like us. I don't even know what to equate it to, but it's
Mhm.
pretty much useless.
Exactly. And when he does attack humans, it's always either through his heat ray or
Hmm.
something of that measure. He
Yeah,
never
yeah.
really like goes, you're never going to see him pick up somebody and go,
Well, the only time
you
you
know.
might see that is the 1998 Zilla, but
19, yeah, I was going to say the 98 Zilla is probably one of the few
yeah,
times you'll see that.
yeah,
Henceforth, why we say in the majority, he doesn't eat humans.
yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, for
So,
sure, for sure.
and then number three, the 1954 film Godzilla launched the kaiju genre, and the franchise is recognized by the Guinness World Book of World Records for having the longest continually running film series in history,
70
outdoing
years, people. Well,
outdoing
71
yeah
now.
outdoing Star Wars, outdoing so many other universes, Godzilla still takes the cake.
Yeah, and I mean you have multiple countries also, taking that up. And you have not only the Japanese, you have Americans or people from the United States creating movies for it as well since 1954.
Absolutely. No, it was one of those it was one of those things, and it's just wild to think that, Godzilla is over 50 years old, well over 50 years old.
Yeah,
It's crazy to think about. I mean, and surprisingly, it doesn't often get thought of as being the oldest. People always think of all these other ones, all these other franchises that have still been going. People think of Doctor Who, people think of like I said, Star Wars and all these others, and it's like, nope, we got to go back even further. Go back to the 50s.
it stood the test of time. It
It
really
did.
did.
Absolutely. And it was reinvented for a new generation each time. And that was the
Absolutely.
best part. And
Well,
my
technically, the anniversary is November 3rd, so we're on the
oh,
71st.
70
We're
71.
71st. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's wild to think that Godzilla is that old. And then number four, my last fun fact is Godzilla is a registered citizen of Japan, recognized as a Japanese citizen and is loved by the country and the world over. So if you go to Japan, you will
Whoa,
see Godzilla listed as a citizen.
whoa! I didn't know. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I can only imagine him holding up his plaque, you know?
Opening up his passport.
Yeah, opening up his passport. Can you imagine if Godzilla's like just wants to travel to America and then he gets denied and they're like, "Dude, just go swim to America, dude."
Oh, and just save yourself a ticket. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Oh
you're saving money,
man.
dude.
Oh man, can you imagine him doing like whatever the equivalent of the Pledge of Allegiance is over there in Japan?
How would he even do that? I don't even know what would be the equivalent of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh man. Oh
But
man.
if somebody
Whatever
knows,
national anthem, yeah. However
if
you
somebody
guys
knows, please let us
participate.
know.
Yeah.
Especially if any of our listeners are from Japan, please let us know. I'm genuinely
Yes.
curious. Yeah, see Godzilla, they're all prideful, hand over his heart,
Yeah.
and then at the
Yeah.
very end,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
gracefully.
Atomic breath.
Yep.
Oh
Please
man.
direct your attention to the sky as Godzilla blasts the national radiation light to the air. Everyone, gas masks on.
The national radiation light. I love that. I love that. Oh man. We need to make our own movie, that's for
We
sure.
need to make our own movie for real. Absolutely.
That is a dream of mine though, so
Make a Godzilla film?
yeah, yeah,
Let's do
yeah.
it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's get in
let's
touch
do
with
it.
Toho and
Let's do it.
let's do it. Yeah. So,
No, no.
okay.
Those were good ones, my friend. Those were good ones.
Yeah, those
You
were
had me
good for
stumped on
sure.
that last one for sure. I did not know that
You
he was
didn't
a
know that?
citizen. No, no,
Oh,
that is too
okay.
cool. That
That's
is
cool.
too
Yep.
cool.
Okay. Sounds good.
Um, so mine are actually a little bit more practical in the
Yeah.
way of the movie making. And I say that because it's practical effects. I had to use that little pun right there.
Fair enough.
Um, okay, so my first one is the roar of the original 1954 Godzilla wasn't an animal sound. For those of you who know, it was a resin coated leather glove rubbed along the strings of a double bass.
That's
Oh
wild.
man, I'm telling you, ingenuity was just the way to go in the art form of the 1950s filmmaking. It just,
Mhm.
oh man, the things that people came up with. Um, Another one, another fun fact I have is in 1992, the Japanese government officially designated Godzilla as a natural cultural property. He's literally protected as cultural heritage of the Japanese people. That
Okay.
is freaking awesome. That's
That's pretty
freaking
dope.
awesome,
That's pretty cool.
right? All right, number three is King Ghidorah's, or as the Japanese call him, King Ghidra. Cackling Cry in the Showa era was actually created by playing Godzilla's roar, but backwards and at a high
Oh,
speed.
that's wild. That is
that
wild.
that seems a bit lazy, but it's also so cool.
I mean, I would have never known the difference.
I wouldn't have. I guess we're gonna have to test it out. We're gonna have to record it, play it backwards, and then turn up the
I'm
speed
sure
on that.
somebody's
And
done that already, but
I'm
yeah, we
sure.
have to. We have to.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Okay, number four. Biolante's concept came from a fan contest. The winning idea was submitted by a dentist. Now,
That's
Biolante
why.
is the beautiful gal, slash plant monster from Godzilla versus Biollante. And for those of you who
Mhm.
know, the design is so beautiful and intricate. To think that an everyday dentist is the one that created it, a
It's wild.
fan. That's so awesome. You don't really
Mhm.
hear that too often, like
No,
a
you
fan
don't.
inspiring an episode or a
Hmm.
film or whatever.
You'll
Uh,
occasionally hear it, but not very often.
not often, not often, but you will hear it every now and then.
Mhm.
And then to conclude my fun fact area, Godzilla once had an official children's safety mascot role in Japan, appearing in campaigns teaching kids how to safely exit burning buildings.
Like Godzilla literally pointing and being like, "You do this, you do that."
Possibly, yeah, he was like
Oh, I gotta
Smokey
find
the
this.
Bear.
I
I
gotta
know.
find this.
Oh, let's see if we can put that on the Instagram. I'll make a oops.
No, you're good. No, no,
I'll
no.
make a note of that because that honestly finding that out really cracked me up.
That's
Oh
hilarious.
man.
Can you imagine Godzilla having his own line of PSAs?
I need it. I need it now.
Godzilla just having PSAs, don't play with fire, don't do this, don't mess with radiation. I don't know.
Only you can prevent the next atomic bomb.
Yeah. Thank you,
Oh,
Madam Curie.
oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Oh, but I'm gonna
I
try
say
to
that with
find that and put it on
respect,
the
but
Instagram.
yes.
You say that with respect, okay?
But
Oh
yeah,
man.
no, isn't that oh that's great. But no, I gotta see that. So for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
that actually concludes my fun fact. Shall we trail on
awesome.
over to trivia?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, okay. So I'll ask you since you asked me last. Are
Sure.
you ready?
Absolutely. Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, so I only have four, so you only have 4 points, okay?
Okay.
What was the first Godzilla film to introduce aliens into the franchise?
Aliens.
Extraterrestrials.
This is a tough one because
Yeah.
there's technically, I guess, two answers that could be there if
Okay.
you think about it. Technically, not 100%. So the first Godzilla film to introduce is what you're asking?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I almost want to say this is going to sound like a cop out. I don't know if this was the first or if this was a later one, but the only one that comes to my mind is Invasion of the Astro Monsters. That's the only one I can think of, but I don't think that's the correct answer.
Well, that's the second. That's the second one
No, okay,
for
okay,
sure.
okay. Give me one
Yeah.
second. I know there's another one. Let me see
Okay.
if I can't get it, then you can tell me. But
Okay.
um, I aliens. Yeah, you'll have to give it to me.
Ghidorah the three-headed monster.
I forgot Ghidorah was a extraterrestrial.
Yeah, so that film actually came out in 1964, just very shortly before Invasion of the Astro Monster, and it was the
Oh,
introduction to Ghidorah itself. I don't know
okay.
if you haven't seen it, I absolutely would recommend
I
seeing it.
have seen it. I just didn't think of it
Okay, so
because
I
I
understand why
forget Gid.
Invasion of the Astro Monster popped up because that was the introduction to the Exilians, and they are
Mm,
pretty much one of the first characters to be portrayed as aliens. But you forgot about the Calyx
mhm,
from the King Ghidorah
mhm,
or Ghidorah, the three-headed monster.
mhm. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep. And then the gents from the Nebula 5, I think it was, coming from Venus and whatnot. But
Okay.
it's actually really only shown 3 times. But the
Wow.
first time was in 1964, 10 years after the original Gojira came out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. Okay. So
Yeah.
now,
I'll give you half a point for that because that's a trick question, kind of.
okay, fine. Half a
Yeah.
point's fine.
Okay. What is Biollante created from in Godzilla versus Biollante? Now, I sort of gave you a little hint in one of my fun facts.
BLNT. What is he created of?
Yeah, what is she created of?
Oh, what is she created of? That's right. What is BLNT made of? Isn't BLNT like part Godzilla, part human or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Also,
right?
yeah, part rose as well.
Oh, that's right. Part Rose too.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's the
Okay.
most important part because that's the form that it
That's the
takes.
form. Okay, that's right.
Exactly.
Okay. That because I remember that I knew it was part of Godzilla because of the whole thing that happens there. And of course I know part human as well, but I forgot about Rose. How did I forget Rose?
Yeah, so it was Godzilla's DNA because they were trying to not necessarily replicate him, but understand him. And then actually the doctor, the I think he was whatever term you use for being a like a doctor of plants.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
Botanist?
possibly I don't
I know that's
I
a
don't
person who studies plants, but yeah.
yeah, okay, then perhaps that is the
Botanist,
case.
yeah.
But his daughter, he used his daughter's cells to
Right.
create.
Yes, yes, that part I do
Yeah,
know. Yeah, because
Erica.
he used Erica cells. Yeah, so that's the human
Yeah.
part.
Along with the rose, and that's
Along with the
all
rose.
three.
Yep, and
Yeah.
that's
And
all
that's why
three.
Biollante is seen as a female because it's using the
Right.
botanist's
Okay.
daughter's
Okay.
cells.
Yes. 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 Thank you for
Yeah.
correcting me on that,
For
and
sure, for
apologize for
sure.
my ignorance on that.
I'll still give you the full point though, because that was pretty much it.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Um, okay. My third question is in the MonsterVerse, what term does Monarch use before Titan becomes standard?
What form does Monarch use before they become standard?
Before Titan becomes standard.
I do not. That's a good one. Because I here's the thing, I'm not terribly versed with all the lore from the MonsterVerse. Is the thing.
That's fair. That's fair.
Um, I I'm stumped. I don't know.
It's actually called a Mudo. A
A
massive,
Mudo.
yeah, a massive unidentified terrestrial organism. And that continues on even to the Monarch Legacy of Monsters show. So it remains canon throughout the entire MonsterVerse.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. No, I should have known that because I hear them talk a lot about that. I just didn't know that's what it was.
It's a word that they say like maybe once every movie, you
Once
know.
every
So
movie, yeah. It's kind of
it's
like
mostly
the
used in the first movie in the
yeah,
2014 film.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's been a minute since I've seen that one,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, for
2014. The
sure.
only time I saw that was when it came out, and then after that I had not seen it again.
I highly recommend a revisit
A
of it.
revisit,
It's
okay.
a good one. It's a good one. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
compared to what we had New Empire of last year.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and then my final question is, in actually, this will just be for the listeners, as I just remembered that you mentioned that you have not seen Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, so I have
So,
not seen Shin Godzilla, but I'll
uh,
still try it.
yeah, just go ahead and give it a guess anyway.
Mhm.
In Shin Godzilla, how many evolutionary forms are explicitly shown on screen? And for those of you who do not know, a lot of the monsters or a lot of the kaiju within both Toho and in Legendary, they have different forms. So they evolve. But how many forms does Shin Godzilla specifically have that are shown on screen?
How many forms?
Yeah, are shown on screen.
Okay, since I have not seen the film, I'm not going to get this right. I'm just going to take
That's
a
fair.
random guess. I'm going to
Okay.
guess five.
Ooh, that was so close. Four, actually.
Oh, dang it.
So
I
the
actually
two
had four in my
forms.
gut.
So there
Okay.
are technically, I believe, five forms. Or actually like five or six. But the
Okay.
ones that were
Okay.
shown, so the first form was not shown, and that was
Yep.
basically Godzilla as a tadpole, like a tiny little slobby
Right.
monster. The second form was and you might have noticed this through pop cultural memes
Mhm.
or TikToks or what or Instagram reels, whatever. But it's the slithering Godzilla without arms or legs
Mhm.
on Japan. The second form is where he gets his legs and he stands up.
Mhm.
Third form is the form that we see most throughout that film, and then the
Mhm.
fourth form, or the fifth form, excuse me,
Mhm.
is actually a radioactive molding of human skulls into one body.
Mhm.
It's pretty crazy.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, sounds good. Okay, I get it now. That's interesting for sure. So, I did not know any of that. That's really cool that you get to see kind of Godzilla evolve.
Yeah, you see him
over
involved
time
in
in
yeah,
Shin
in
Godzilla.
multiple films, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Well, anyhow, is that all the trivia you have?
Yep, all done.
Okay, sounds good. All right, then I will go and do my trivia. A lot of these are dead giveaways, but I also have one that I want to add that was not in the original script
Okay.
that I found. So, okay. Um, so the first one that I have for you, my friend, is what color is Godzilla's skin in almost all except two movies? So in every single version except for two films.
He's sort of this blend between black and like charcoal, and that was done purposely,
Uh, uh-huh. Keep going, keep going.
but there have been films where he's green, there've been films where he's purple.
Hmm.
Um Even like a light shade of like blue too, but he's mostly like a dark gray black.
So you are technically correct. You actually said the correct answer just in the second form. It is charcoal.
Yeah, charcoal. Yeah.
Charcoal. So charcoal is
It,
is
it
is
mimics ashes. That was the intent of it.
absolutely. So charcoal is the color. So it says contrary to popular belief, Godzilla's skin is indeed a dark charcoal gray. It has only been green in two movies, Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla versus Megaris. This misconception originally came from the fact that they accidentally used green ink on the posters for the original Godzilla movie in America.
Ha, that's funny.
And
I'm wondering how that parallels to us thinking that the Frankenstein's monster is also green.
again, I think a lot of it is just the color complexion. And when you colorize the film, that's kind of what you get. But you have to figure film
Yeah.
colorization works very differently than shooting in actual color.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and stuck and because it was in black and white, nobody could tell his true color. And it just kind of stuck around ever since.
Yeah.
So,
And now
there's
he's pink.
now apparently he's pink. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and then number two, this is a MonsterVerse question, so I thought I'd throw that out now. What is
I'm
the
not as versed, so I just want to
okay?
point that out in case I embarrass myself.
And the second one is what is the device that kills Godzilla in Godzilla King of the Monsters?
Kills Godzilla in King of the Monsters. So King of the Monsters was sort of like a spin on the original.
Hmm.
And in the original, it was an oxygen destroyer made by Dr. Serizawa.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it was the lady from The Conjuring. She did it.
Emma,
So
it's Dr. Russell in the
is it
MonsterVerse.
what's her real Vera
Vera
Farmiga? Yeah, Vera
Farmiga.
Farmiga.
Hmm.
Ooh. Um, I'm just gonna say oxygen destroyer because that's really the only thing that I know that has killed Godzilla, but I don't know specifically.
Yes, you got the
Really,
answer. That's
is
the
it
answer.
called that as well?
Yes, it's an oxygen destroyer. So it's Dr. Emma
Oh,
Russell who
okay.
makes it, who is probably
Uh,
one of the most evil characters in one of these films. And it's nice to
yeah,
actually see a female get to take the bad guy seat in these films. And I thought Vera Farmiga did a
yeah.
great job. But anyways, back to the main point. Um, it is an oxygen destroyer that is used. But here's the thing: he technically doesn't die, but he regenerates eventually, but it
Mm.
temporarily incapacitated him because he returns as Burning Godzilla.
Yes, well, I think Toho makes it a thing. I don't know if it's legally or if it's just an unspoken rule, but you can't
Mhm.
kill Godzilla
No, you
technically,
can't
even
technically
though
kill
they
Godzilla.
did in the first film.
Well, you have to figure the first film had rules that were different than the rest of the kaiju lore and the rest
That's a
of
great
the
point.
and the
Yeah,
rest of the era. And then as Heisei and Reiwa came along, that changed the rules too. You have to figure each era
yeah,
had its different rules as well. So,
yeah.
um, Definitely that. And then number three, this is a giveaway, so I'm going to give you the point right now because you already know this. What era of Godzilla is the 1970s? We talked
Oh,
about this.
Showa era, the best era in
Thank
my
you.
opinion.
Yes. Showa. So yes, it is the Showa era. We don't need to even say anymore because we talked all about the Showa era. But there
Yeah.
is one I want to add because I
Okay.
actually found this right as we were about to record, and I thought this would be kind of cool.
Okay.
So after Honda was laid off by Toho Studios in the 1960s due to the oil crisis in Japan, which popular Japanese director was rumored to have possibly made their own Godzilla film in the Showa era?
Oh, I rumored to have made, so they didn't make it.
No.
I only know two Japanese directors.
You might get it by chance, but I
I
just
know
thought I'd give it
Ishirō
to you.
Honda and Akira Kurosawa. That's all I know.
It
And
was,
Miyazaki.
it was, in fact, oh, take a guess. Take a guess. Just take a guess.
Akira Kurosawa?
It was Akira Kurosawa.
Oh, Kurosawa. Yeah, yeah.
It was Kurosawa. Kurosawa was actually very close friends with Honda, and basically his whole thing was after that happened, he was so upset about it because of how bad his friend got treated. And basically
Wow.
what happened was he at that point decided he wanted to go and make a Godzilla film, but he was under contract by another Japanese company, so he couldn't break his contract. Henceforth, he never made a Godzilla movie.
Whoa.
Because he was still under contract. I don't know what studio in Japan made Seven Samurai and Yojimbo and all those movies, but he was
Yeah, I
tied to
wouldn't
them.
know.
He was tied to them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so basically what happened was it just never came to fruition, but it was rumored. And the reason we say rumored is because the stories have differed so many times, and there's people who have said no, it wasn't going to be a Godzilla film, and then there's people who are like, no, it wasn't going to be Kurosawa. So yeah.
Man, and there's no way to confirm that.
No. And I think, as you
Dang
know,
it.
a Godzilla film by Kurosawa would have been interesting.
Oh man. I wouldn't even know how to imagine it.
Absolutely. So that is all my fun facts and trivia.
Those are some good ones. Heck yes. Heck yes.
Mhm. So no, 100%. That was really, I think it was really cool that we
Yeah.
got to do this, and really good fun facts and trivia section.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we did a great job, but I think now we can move into the third and final segment of the show, and that
Yes.
is the impact on pop culture, because Godzilla is no longer just this character that only exists in Japan and only exists in the movies.
Hmm.
Godzilla is everywhere now.
Everywhere.
There's no secret. Godzilla is a phenomenon throughout not just Japan and the US, but the entire world.
Yeah.
The entire world loves Godzilla, and is to the point now where Godzilla is on t-shirts like you are wearing.
Eating
Godzilla
ramen.
eating ramen of all things. Godzilla is literally keychains, phone cases, books,
Car
comic
air
books,
fresheners.
car air fresheners, one of which that sits in my car.
Mine
Um,
too.
It's insane how much of a marketing gimmick now Godzilla is. And
Oh
Godzilla's
yeah.
so popular, he has his own song.
I, he has bands dedicated to him. He has, I'm sure
Yeah.
someone out there has named their child Gojira or something like that. I don't know. But man,
Yeah.
he is loved. And when we say he's loved, he's been loved too. Since it came out, he pretty much was loved by the Japanese people, and then now he's grown to be loved around the world, as John said.
Yeah, absolutely. And the even crazier part about Godzilla as well, when you look at his whole entire character arc, um Godzilla, represents something also to so many different people. I mean, for Japan, it represented a tragedy. For Americans, it represents a cool monster. And I think for everyone else, it's a legacy that combines all of those, into the point now where Godzilla is not only one of the greatest monsters created, he's one of the greatest characters ever created.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Can you imagine one day if Godzilla gets a star on the Walk of Fame, like Godzilla?
I thought he did.
Does he?
I thought he received one.
Hold
Yeah.
on. Does Godzilla have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yes, Godzilla has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The star was dedicated on November 29th, 2004. Wow, so
Oh,
long time.
2004, so a while ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
To commemorate his 50th anniversary and the premiere of the film Godzilla Final Wars. The star is located at
Oh,
6.
Final Wars.
Yeah, I know.
That's the end of the Millennium era right there.
Yep. And the star is located at 629 6925 Hollywood Boulevard. And
Field trip time.
there's him accepting his star.
That stance though. Oh my
I know.
gosh. He's
like,
flexible.
dude, why are you standing like this, bro? Like, what is this?
He's all caked up and open spread. It's funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. Or spread
Yeah.
open, I mean. That's
Oh,
too funny.
and there's
But
another one.
that's a better picture. That's more appropriate. Too bad the watermarks are all over it. But yeah, he's infiltrated literally every facet of media. You have film, TV, music, fashion. I've seen people wearing the most cool, luxurious jackets worth thousands of dollars with the face of the G-Man himself. And then you also have memes and internet culture. And then you have different physical forms of media. He's been in anime or physical form. He's been he has movies obviously, but he's also been in comics too, and that's really crazy because a lot of the background lore that a lot of people don't know about and that goes unseen comes from comic books. Like I don't know if we have any listeners right now who are super into comic books, but within the past 3 to 5 years, he's been battling the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He's been battling the Avengers. He battled Charles Barkley like 20 years ago.
I forgot about that.
Transformers, the Justice League, literally a lot of people that have done crossovers with him. It's really cool. And then even more so, it shows you how powerful he is because he literally went to hell. How funny is that?
Okay, you're never gonna believe what I just found. So I was listening to everything you said, but I found right below the photo of Godzilla getting his star, there's a Reddit post that says, "Until I see Godzilla wielding a firearm, he isn't truly American." And look what they did.
Oh man,
it's scary what AI can do, man.
Not gonna lie, I would definitely put that as my wallpaper.
I'm not gonna lie, I would watch that movie too.
I would watch that movie too.
I mean, can you imagine Godzilla? He just comes in, and he just like, you know, he's not even using his radiation breath. He's like, it's not even worth it.
Yeah, and then he that's his finishing move, and then the next thing you know,
his finishing move,
Triple H hires him on WWE.
Yeah, exactly. And he's about to, and he's just like, just kidding.
Or like in Austin Powers, where the mechanical woman has like a machine gun in her breasts.
That's right. I forgot about yes.
He has a machine gun like in his mouth where the atomic breath would normally come out.
And it's just like one of those miniguns.
Just spraying oh man. Oh, now I know what the plot of our next movie is going to be. Creating him into a mass murdering weapon. We're so American. Holy crap, it's embarrassing.
A little bit for sure. But
no, I'm kidding. All love.
All love, but I see what you mean.
But he's literally infiltrated everything you can think of.
It's so scary that to think of what Godzilla could invade next. I mean,
tell me about it.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, I mean, now you go to sports games and you'll probably see Godzilla turn up at some point. Halloween.
He was at I don't know where he was, but recently this past year he was at an MLB game, and he's been seen at different MLB games as well.
That's crazy. Like the full costume or just somebody wearing a headpiece? Full costume.
Yes,
that's crazy.
And then just recently, and I saw this at Fry's, which is a grocery store here in Arizona, or it could be the West Coast. But anyway, I was walking near the beer section. Oh, Kroger. Yes. I was walking in the beer section or the beer aisle, and Pabst did a collaboration with Godzilla. So Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer, PBR has they have a box where it's Godzilla.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, Godzilla is everywhere, folks. Like
Everywhere.
you can't escape Godzilla. You see what I
No,
mean when I wasn't actually even really kidding when I said all that stuff.
no.
Like because you don't know where Godzilla's gonna show up. It's like it's so wild, but I'll say one thing, about a lot of the different forms of how Godzilla took. And I think really when you look at all the different forms, whether they're westernized, whether they're originized from Japan, they're all unique in some way.
They're
Um,
all unique.
because they all explore a different path. And I think that's what makes the Godzilla community or the Kaiju community so beautiful is not only is there something for everyone, but there's something special that really hasn't been done before. And even I'll say this for the MonsterVerse films, they're unique in the way that they're at least trying to do something a little bit different. They're now
Yeah.
are they doing it 100% originally? No, not even
Mm,
close.
yeah.
But at least they're trying.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't think I've seen, aside from the 98 Godzilla, a Godzilla film I absolutely dislike, like hated. Because
That's a fair point. Yeah, yeah,
because really, if you think about it, they all have something special to offer. And so I
yeah.
think that's what's so cool about it. Um, but I think the thing I enjoy the most about the fandom experience is, there's so much, Godzilla has toys,
Everything.
action figures. Godzilla's sitting behind on top of your shelf.
I have a shelf right here of hot sauces, masks, everything Godzilla right here. You can't really
And
see it because my head's in the way, but
and Godzilla, yeah, he's everywhere. He's in your room. Like I said, he's probably watching you right now.
let's hope.
Let's hope. And let's hope he's on your side too.
I wouldn't mind being charred.
You wouldn't mind being charred by Godzilla. So you'd literally be like, hey, over here, get me. I lived a good life. I'm okay.
Oh man, I wouldn't put it past me. I'm not gonna lie. On a good day, yeah, I can see myself.
All right, nice knowing you then, I guess. So,
Oh man. Well, let's hope we don't get to a point where a creature like Godzilla does come into fruition and into our reality.
100%. And again, Godzilla's on so much merchandise.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure even if you go buy a bag of chips, sometime when the next Godzilla or MonsterVerse movie comes out, you're gonna see Godzilla on a bag of Doritos or on a bag of cheese, on a box of Cheez-Its or
Absolutely.
something like that. Because, well, he
He's
likes
the
he
king of
like
the
he's the
monsters.
king of the monsters. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about, folks?
Yep.
It's like.
Yep.
So yeah, and then the one thing too also is, it's wild to see, and I've seen it. Kids today will buy action figures and toys of a character that was created in Japan 71 years ago.
Well, that's why it's so amazing. The community is so amazing. You
Mhm.
have you it's one of the most diverse communities when it comes to a fandom, and it's specifically because of that, because it spans over generations and cultures, and it's just, oh man, it just warms my freaking heart. And even if you don't directly see Godzilla, you see them in franchise inspirations. You see
Mhm.
Godzilla and the footprint it left. I mean, without Godzilla, we wouldn't even have Power Rangers. We
Yeah,
wouldn't have big mechas, or we wouldn't really have the big monster showcases that we see
yeah.
now. It's crazy to think where we would be had Godzilla never been created.
100%. To be honest with you, a lot of people look at the beginning of kind of the nerd fandom with Comic-Con and all that, beginning with obviously, comic books and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. And that's probably true. But really, I don't think that era could have existed without Godzilla. Godzilla kind of began the whole fandom of nerdism, I guess, in the
Yeah, I
sense
could
of
say that. Yeah,
what we see as modern,
yeah, I'd say that
like
too.
being stuff like that. And really, because I mean, he is part of it now, Godzilla.
Yeah,
And
he's a part
I'm
of history, whether you like it or not.
exactly. And almost every convention I've been to, whether it's Comic-Con, whether it's a fun, just cosplay convention, I've seen at least one Godzilla in each of them.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, at least one. I've seen at least one Godzilla.
You can't think pop culture without thinking Godzilla in many ways.
100%. I mean, you can't escape them.
Nope, you can't. And uh, be that a good thing or a bad thing? In my case, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But yeah, it's not gonna end anytime soon. At least for the money making part of American culture, it's not gonna end here. And I hope it never ends in Japan.
Likewise, I hope it never ends wherever. I mean, I think Godzilla is such a strong franchise. I think Godzilla, if we look at the future of not just Godzilla, but kaiju storytelling in general, it's going to live on in some form because we have the monster verse introducing modern audiences to the
Hmm.
kaiju characters, and
Whatever's
hopefully
coming on
they'll,
after that too.
yeah, and minus one revamped the OG lore of Godzilla.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
moreover, if you want to think about it this way too, um, Godzilla minus one getting a sequel is going to continue that legacy. And hopefully if
Hmm.
that film performs as well, maybe that'll get a sequel and they'll start a whole new era to even surpass the Rei era.
Yeah,
I think I
and
said that way wrong, but yeah.
well, mispronunciation is one of my biggest things with Godzilla, just because I'm not Japanese, therefore I'm capable of
Rewa,
doing that
that's what
as
I meant
well.
to say. Yeah.
Yeah. But Shin Godzilla was re-released in theaters this year.
Yeah.
And like I said, they re-released the Blu-ray edition. So who's to say that the director isn't working on a second with Form 4 and 5 and 6 and 7?
Yeah, because I mean, first you have the minus one line, then you have the Shin line, and you have all these others too within the
Hmm.
same era, keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so,
And Shin itself is already a powerhouse in Toho, because you have Shin Ultraman, you have um
mm,
what else?
um,
Like I
I,
can't remember because I
I
don't go
know,
past Ultraman, but you know what I mean.
I
Like
know
they're
exactly what
even
you mean.
spawning
Yeah.
off on their own cinematic universe, and
Yes,
that's
they are.
so awesome.
It is. It's really cool. So, I think the future of kaiju storytelling and Godzilla is pretty secure.
It's safe to
And
say that it's very secure.
it's very secure. And I think even when our time comes, I think it'll continue even past our not only our generation, but our lifetime and our century.
Oh
So when
yeah.
we're long gone, I still think there'll be Godzilla stories being told. And one
I'm
day it's going to become an ancient legend, I feel like all these things. Now,
Yeah.
hear the ancient legend of Godzilla, released in the
Oh.
year AD 1954.
Oh man, and oh man, I cannot wait for 2054. Knock on wood, we're still living and breathing. I know we'll be still young at that point, but the 100-year mark, oh, I can't imagine what's going to come out at that time.
100%.
We
And
might even have a Godzilla land here in the US.
Godzilla Land.
Yeah,
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it. We got to get
that'd
Godzilla
be
Land up
awesome.
and going.
That'd be
We have
awesome.
to
Let's
get
all petition.
Godzilla Land up and going. Yes,
Yeah.
Godzilla Land. That would be
Yes.
wild, and can include all the kaiju's. You know, and can you
All of
imagine? Can
them.
you imagine the rides that would come out of this? I'm trying to think like a roller coaster. Godzilla's. Uh,
Or more so, you could have a big statue of Godzilla and have like
yeah,
a little, like a roller coaster of like Ghidorah or Rodan, like going
yeah.
around him and stuff like that.
Mothra's maze. I don't know.
Mothra's maze, that would be so cool. That would be so cool.
That would be wild. I mean, like, can you
Yeah,
imagine the possibilities that are
they're
just out there
endless.
and just need to be picked up by somebody or just need to
Yeah.
be acted upon?
Absolutely. They're, like I said, going back to comics, they have some really great plots that I kind of want to see be brought to life through either live action or through cartoon or whatever, you know. So there's a lot of inspiration out there. People just need to get to writing and producing and funding them.
100%. I hear you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my friend. This was a great episode.
Oh man, oh man. Talking about the King of the Monsters, it was just, oh
It's always
man,
a joy.
always
Always
a
a
joy.
joy. And
Always a joy.
to be honest with you, it rekindled my love for Godzilla and I'm probably going to go
Let's
back and watch more
go.
Godzilla films now and
Do it.
hopefully by
Do
the
it.
next time we talk about it, I can have a lot more to be able to talk about.
Well, maybe next in the next couple of years we can revisit this topic and talk about all the new eras that have come up and the new
Yeah.
movies that have become new additions to his legacy.
Yeah, I think that'd be absolutely great to do. Godzilla. Really, at the end of the day, it's like Cobra Kai never dies. Godzilla never dies.
Nope.
So
Nope.
it's like whatever era comes to an end, Godzilla never dies. So anything's possible.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I think that's another episode in the books, folks.
Yup, that concludes this episode of Rewind Room. Um, what stands out is that Godzilla's true power isn't just in the movies, as we discussed. It's the cultural footprint he's left behind.
Mhm.
Born from post-war trauma, he's grown into a global icon who shapes how we tell stories, build worlds, and express ourselves through art, fashion, music, and fandom. Whether he's a metaphor, a menace, or a modern blockbuster titan, Godzilla keeps inspiring new generations to imagine bigger and feel deeper. His greatest destruction isn't cities, it's the boundaries of pop culture he keeps blowing open.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Ramona,
I'm Jon.
and we'll catch you on the rewind.